Chapter 3176. Ancient City. In the entire maple forest, only the 3 people who had slandered Lin Ling were left. They had been shot by the arrows and it was only a matter of time before they died. However, they all looked at Lin Ling in horror. "Senior, we were wrong." They made difficult noises. "Wrong your sister." Lin Ling didn't even look at them. He didn't want to waste any more words. "Tiske, we saved you out of kindness but you slandered us instead? I've seen people who seek death, but this is the first time I've seen people who seek death like you." On the contrary, Do Ying started to laugh, but his laughter was very cruel. He took out another dagger and cut them up until they were dripping with blood. "We can't even be bothered to dirty our hands by killing you. There are many demonic beasts in the ancient forbidden forest. You can slowly enjoy the remaining time you have left." After putting away the dagger, Do Afterimage and Lin Ling slowly left the maple forest. Just as they started moving, they immediately sensed a low growl coming from outside the forest. Obviously, the fresh blood had attracted those magical beasts. "Senior, save us." As the fishy devil chi drifted over, the 3 of them clearly understood Do Ying's intentions. Each of them trembled in fear, and their pleas for mercy grew louder and louder. However, it was of no use. Instead, it made the demonic beasts even more restless. Ah! Not long after, a painful cry drifted out from the maple forest, startling countless birds. Lin Ling, on the other hand, was expressionless and completely ignored him. On the other hand, Do Ying licked his lips, as if he was very interested in what was happening in the maple forest. However, he also thought that those 3 people were courting death. Not to mention him, the king of assassins, they even dared to slander Lin Ling. One had to know that this was a man who could kill gods. "This is the map?" While moving forward, a piece of beast skin appeared in Lin Ling's hand. It was obtained from the people of the Sun Moon Fine Courtyard. "It's just one of the maps. I can't tell anything from this map." Do Afterimage also went over and looked up and down, but when he flipped to the other side of the map, he was stunned. On the other side there was a strange plant drawn with fresh blood. Unlike ordinary plants, there was only one plant and it was full of thorns like a vine. "What is this?" Lin Ling frowned. "I can't tell what it is, but it looks like the vine on your arm." Do Ying stared at the map, then stared at Lin Ling's left arm. The more he looked, the more he felt the resemblance. Even Lin Ling was surprised after taking a few glances. This was because it really looked like Little Kunlun. Could it be that the destination of the map was related to Little Kunlun? Lin Ling had obtained the Azure Thearka's Imperial Jade Seal in the Land of God. Its origin was mysterious. Could it be related to the Eternal Forbidden Forest? "Little Kunlun, do you recognize this portrait?" Lin Ling waved the map at the vines. However, the leaves of Little Kunlun also swayed like a child shaking its head. "Looks like I have to explore this map." Seeing this, Lin Ling shook his head helplessly. However, he only had one piece of the map, so there was nothing he could do for now. "I didn't expect to find such a lousy map instead of senior sister you Sai." Thinking of the purpose of this trip, Lin Ling felt a little depressed. "Young master, don't worry. Since your girlfriend is the saintess of the Celestial Temple, she won't be in any danger. Perhaps she is also looking for this map. So, we can follow the clues on the map and maybe we can meet her." Do Afterimage comforted. "That's the only way. However, the map doesn't leave us with many clues." Lin Ling looked into the distance and couldn't help but sigh. The 2 of them chatted as they walked. In the evening, the forbidden forest became quiet. Lin Ling and the rest knew that the paradise of the demonic beast was coming. The forbidden forest at night was the scariest. During this period, they had been chased by the demonic beasts countless times. "Wait, look. What a tall wall." Suddenly, Do Afterimage exclaimed. In the distant forest, a tall wall that reached the sky was faintly discernible. The height of the wall was probably comparable to the chaos of the universe. Even if the demonic beasts were as big as a mountain, they would not be able to break through the wall. "It seems that there are people in front. Let's hurry over." Although Lin Ling was not afraid of spending the night in the forbidden forest, he was really tired. If he could have a good night's rest, he would not miss it. The 2 of them hurried on. Not long after, an ancient city appeared. The huge wall was made of some unknown material. The surface of the wall was covered with plants and there was a 3-meter-tall entrance at the bottom. At this moment, martial artists were entering one after another. Relay Station TSK. This is a rare place to rest in the forbidden forest. Yes, this was originally a small inn. Later, more and more people came to rest here. Gradually, it developed into an ancient city. I heard that the people in the ancient city are not strong. However, the martial artists who enter the city do not dare to provoke them. This is because if the people in the city leave, we, the martial artists, will not have a place to rest. As they walked along the main road, the martial artists on the side said happily. It was obvious that they liked the ancient city very much. After entering the ancient city, they realized that it was very simple. It was not as prosperous as they had imagined. Restaurants and inns were built on both sides of the road. There was also an endless stream of passers-by. However, no one dared to cause trouble here. Although the people in the city were not strong, it was obvious that no matter how strong the martial artists were, they would not destroy their own resting place. Passers-by, if you are tired, come here and get some rice. This is a special product of the Forbidden Forest. It is very effective for recovering physical strength. After walking for a few streets, the scene of rice being distributed appeared in front of them. Lin Ling and Do Afterimage were shocked. That is the water spirit rice. You can buy it in the 9 states. It can indeed recover physical strength. However, this kind of divine rice only appears in the Forbidden Forest. I think it was planted by the people in the city. Soon Do Afterimage was enlightened. The water spirit rice was as big as a pearl. It was crystal clear and looked like water droplets. Moreover, it was not cooked yet. Lin Ling could already smell the fragrance of the rice. This made him secretly lick his lips. He had never eaten this kind of divine rice in his travels in the 9 states. No matter what, he had to try it today. However, when he saw the long line, Lin Ling felt a headache coming on. These guys are working so hard for free food. I really look down on them. Lin Ling curled his lips and said. Do Afterimage, who was beside him, laughed. The two of them joined the line. However, the line was too long. Their enthusiasm gradually died down. Why are we queuing? We have a lot of treasures on us. We can just buy rice and eat it. In the end, Lin Ling was not interested in queuing. He led Do Afterimage and swaggered forward. Guys, please take out your best food. We'll trade it with treasures. After sitting down on a chair, Lin Ling shouted. Since he could not find an heir in a short period of time, he might as well let go of the shackles in his heart. He would eat and play when he wanted to. Okay. Someone immediately shouted and then got busy. Chapter 3177. Dine and Dash. Water spirit rice, accompanied by the aroma of wine. You can pass after 3 bowls. After the divine rice is cooked, Do Afterimage licks his lips and remembers the ballad about the water spirit rice. Not bad indeed. Lin Ling's appetite was also aroused, and he immediately started eating. It had to be said that the specialty of the ancient Forbidden Forest was indeed delicious. After drinking a bowl of it, the fatigue of the past few days disappeared quietly. That feeling was as if he had cultivated for 3 days and 3 nights. Furthermore, Lin Ling's physical body was also quietly improving. Boss, 10 more bowls? Lin Ling shouted again. All right. A burly man in cotton clothes immediately replied. How can 10 bowls be enough? Give me 10 more. Seeing Lin Ling wolfing down the food, Do Ying's pupils constricted. This guy really can eat, he hurriedly shouted. I'm envious of them. They must be rich. The people lining up around them all licked their lips. Dear guests, there's something I don't know if I should say or not. The burly man placed the cooked rice on the table and smiled politely. Speak. Lin Ling was still eating. You've already eaten many bowls. I wonder if you two have prepared so much money? The burly man said politely. Then, as if he was afraid that Lin Ling and Huang Xiaolong would get angry, he quickly explained, both of you have an extraordinary aura, so I'm sure you don't lack this small amount of money. However, a bowl of water spirit rice costs 10 emperor crystals, so please take a look. Obviously, Lin Ling and the rest had eaten too much. This burly man was afraid that Lin Ling and the rest couldn't afford it. Hearing this, Do Afterimage frowned. This guy was looking down on them too much. He immediately looked coldly at the burly man, causing the latter's heart to tremble. He subconsciously looked at Lin Ling because Lin Ling seemed to be much easier to talk to. However, Lin Ling smiled and waved his hand. A bowl of spiritual water rice only costs 10 royal crystals. We can afford it. How about this? I'll pay you first. This young hero is easy to talk to. Seeing this, the burly man was overjoyed. While Lin Ling was about to take out the money, after searching through his entire body, he couldn't find a single royal crystal. Initially, Lin Ling didn't think so much of the royal crystal. However, he had forgotten that he had used all of his royal crystals to form the divine boundary formation. He had also used all the treasures he obtained from the heavenly court for cultivation, and he had used the heavenly courts. By the heavenly court's heavens. Do you take elixirs? Lin, the burly man Afterimage. However, the burly man's face turned ugly. We don't practice martial arts. What do we need pills for? He afterimage spirit Wang, the spirit. Old Do, do you have any emperor crystals? Lin Ling immediately looked at Do afterimage. Do afterimage, the old glutton, was still eating. When Lin Ling looked over, he was stunned for a moment and then said, Royal crystals? I never bring imperial crystals with me. This time Lin Ling had a headache. As for the people who sent the rice and the burly man, their faces became even more unsightly. In fact, with Lin Ling's strength, he really didn't want to pay. This was a very easy thing to do. However, the other party was a very ordinary farmer, so he really couldn't do something like dine and dash. These two fellows are too thick-skinned. I thought they were rich and overbearing. All sorts of mocking voices could be heard from all around. Sirs, you've gone too far. That tall and sturdy man even took away all the water spirit rice on the table, making Lin Ling speechless. Qiji, watch your words. But at this moment, a kind voice suddenly sounded. Then someone helped an old granny over. Great-grandmother. Seeing the old granny, the burly man immediately became respectful. It could be seen that they came from the same village, and the old granny was obviously a person of virtue and prestige in the village. They're dining and dashing. You know, we're sending rice, but they've also eaten all the water spirit rice that everyone else deserves. The burly man said again. The old granny immediately looked at Lin Ling and Du Haing. She saw indifference from Du Haing, but from Lin Ling's face she saw apology. They didn't mean it. When you go out, everyone will be careless. Qiji, forget it. The old granny smiled kindly. Great-grandmother. The burly man suddenly felt a little unreconciled. I'll treat them to the meal. Is that not enough? The old granny immediately reprimanded, making the burly man nod helplessly. However, he still looked at Lin Ling and Du Haing with resentment. Thank you, old granny. Lin Ling was sweating profusely. He, the emperor of the two great divine prefecture, actually had such an awkward moment. It made him feel very embarrassed. Young man, it's okay. If you're still not full, you can say it. The old granny laughed. At this time, even Du Haing was a little embarrassed. Lin Ling quickly waved his hand. He was too embarrassed to continue eating. He even wanted to leave this place immediately. When he had the imperial crystals, he would immediately return the money to this kind old granny. Great-grandmother, there's a letter from Taiyuan's sect. However, at this time, a person suddenly ran over from afar. He looked a little anxious. He held an envelope in his hand and then handed it to the old granny. Seeing this, the old granny was immediately delighted. It's a letter from Yen. She quickly took the letter. However, after reading it carefully, her expression changed greatly and she even stepped back. Great-grandmother. The burly man and the others immediately felt that something was wrong. After taking the envelope, they roughly glanced at it and their expressions changed greatly. Obviously, the contents of the envelope made them feel very helpless. Alas, Yenner's life is not good. The old granny let out a long sigh. Her eyes also became moist. Lin Ling and Do Kening looked at each other and hurriedly asked, Big brother, what happened? It's none of your business. The burly man's tone was extremely unpleasant. Lin Ling ignored him. He snatched the letter from the burly man's hand and roughly read it. It turned out that the letter was written by the old granny's granddaughter, Yen. However, she did not personally write it. It was written by a good friend of Yen. Both of them were practicing martial arts in Taiyuan's sect. However, a few days ago both of them were searching for spiritual herbs at the edge of the ancient forbidden forest and were kidnapped by a powerful sect. Now Yenner had been brought to the depths of the ancient forbidden forest. Moreover, she was not the only girl who was taken away. If Yenner's good friend had not pretended to be dead and avoided the disaster, she would have been brought to the depths of the ancient forbidden forest. The surrounding martial artists often ventured into the ancient forbidden forest. From the old granny's appearance, they could vaguely guess what had happened. During this period, many girls have gone missing. I have been wandering in the periphery of the ancient forbidden forest and heard many people talking about it. It's Purple Cloud Sword Sect. This sect was invited by a powerful sect to enter the ancient forbidden forest. However, I did not expect this sect to do such a thing. Chapter 3178. Young Yao. Blah. Hearing their words, the benevolent old man collapsed powerlessly, causing the burly man and the others to be extremely anxious. After a while, the old man gradually woke up, but his eyes were lifeless and his face was extremely pale. Seeing this, Lin Ling hurriedly asked, Do you know where the Purple Cloud Sword Sect is? Why do you ask? Hearing this, the burly man immediately frowned. I'll save your granddaughter for you. With just the two of you? Do you know how many people the Purple Cloud Sword sect has? What about their strength? It's not that we're looking down on you, but there are only two of you. I'm afraid that you'll be killed before you even get close to the Purple Cloud Sword sect. The tall and sturdy man and the others didn't believe Lin Ling and his companion at all, because these two people would feel guilty because they didn't have the money to pay the bill. Such people were obviously low-level characters. How could they have any powerful strength? True experts were incomparably domineering. How could they be like them? Cut the crap. Seeing this, Lin Ling's gaze turned cold and his eyes quietly changed. That gaze directly caused the burly man's entire body to tremble. What a cold gaze. This pair of eyes was completely different from the guilty look from before. It was as if the blue-robed youth was wearing two masks. To ordinary people he was a very ordinary young man, but to his enemies he was like a god of death. If you want to go to the Purple Cloud Sword sect, head east along the ancient city. They've been stationed there for a long time. Moreover, there's an ancient relay station there as well. However, that place is very chaotic and can't be compared to this city's tranquility. Therefore you must be very careful. At this moment someone in the crowd spoke up. Although they thought that Lin Ling was going to throw his life away, since Lin Ling took the initiative to offer to help, they naturally would not refuse. And the martial artists here would often wander around the Forbidden Forest. More or less, they would run into people from the Purple Cloud Sword sect, so they knew where they were. Thanks, old Do. Let's go. Lin Ling bowed to the person who spoke and strode forward. The two of them left the ancient city. However, the burly man and the others were still grieving. They didn't believe that Lin Ling could help them in any way. Purple Cloud Sword sect, it's them again. They're really unlucky. After leaving the ancient city, Lin Ling immediately headed east. The Purple Cloud Sword sect is a sect in the west of the 9 states. Although they are somewhat powerful in the Jianghu and Yunzhou, their strength is only SOSO. I am curious what kind of powerful force is calling for them. And it seems like there is more than one sect that has been called. Do Afterimage pondered and said, "You'll know when you get there." Lin Ling smiled. At present, Anuaris' whereabouts were still unknown. So, if he wandered around he might find a way out. Most importantly, they had dined and dashed before, but the old man did not mind at all. Based on this, Lin Ling had to save Yen. The two of them were not weak. With their full strength, they rushed to the other ancient city in one night. At dawn, two figures walked out of the ancient forest. Their faces were filled with exhaustion. It was obvious that they had been harassed by many demonic beasts during the night's journey. After walking out of the forest, a huge ancient wooden fortress appeared in front of them. Different from the ancient city from before, this fortress was built with ancient trees. On top of the ancient trees, huge crossbows were neatly placed. They were probably used to deal with demonic beasts. Lin Ling could vaguely see a boundary array on the crossbows. He knew that these crossbows could gather the chaotic energy of the universe and form a terrifying attack. They were extremely extraordinary. However, entering the city was simple. They just had to follow the passers-by. Moreover, the city was very chaotic. Lin Ling and the others could clearly see the killings in the corners of the streets. As expected, this was a lawless area. As for the Purple Cloud Sword sect, it was easy to find. After all, the Purple Cloud Sword sect was an existence that couldn't be provoked. So, this sect didn't hide any traces. After a while, Lin Ling and Do Afterimage appeared outside a manor. "Young master, shall we go in directly and ask for her?" Do Afterimage licked his lips. His eyes were filled with killing intent. "No, we have to find her first. If Yen'er dies in the chaos, we'll be ashamed to face that old man." However, Lin Ling shook his head. Moreover, there were many powerful cultivators hidden in the ancient Forbidden Forest. For safety's sake, it was better to be careful. "All right, we'll attack after we save Yen'er." Do Afterimage nodded. Perhaps the Purple Cloud Sword sect was hiding some powerful cultivators. But as long as they saved Yen'er, even if they couldn't defeat them, it wouldn't be a problem for them to escape unscathed. Moreover, the Purple Cloud Sword sect might not have any powerful cultivators. The two of them concealed their auras and snuck into the manor. The manor was very large. It was obviously difficult to find Yen'er in a short period of time. Just as Lin Ling was about to ask someone, several voices came from the corridor ahead. Moreover, 5 young men were slowly walking down the corridor. Did the sect leader say when we're leaving? About 3 days later. However, we haven't found the map yet. That's a pity. We originally wanted to give the map to young Master Yao in exchange for some treasures. But now the map has been stolen by some bastard. Forget it. The map that young Master Yao wants might not be the one that we're looking for. Moreover, young Master Yao has invited many sects. So, even without the map, young Master Yao won't do anything to the Purple Cloud Sword sect. That's right. However, the girls that we've caught these few days are quite pretty. There are quite a few beauties in the Cloud State. Don't even think about touching those girls. They're used by the sect leader for his cultivation. Unless he doesn't want them. The few of them chatted as they walked down the corridor. In the garden beside the corridor, two figures quietly appeared. One of them walked out from the shadows. The other young man walked out from the plants. He was surrounded by black vines and had disappeared into the plants. The two of them were Lin Ling and Do Afterimage. Young Master Yao? Do Afterimage frowned as he recalled the words of those people. Elder Do, do you know him? Lin Ling was instantly curious. I don't know if the young Master Yao they're talking about is the person I've seen before. 3 years ago, I was assassinating someone in the spirit state and was stopped by someone. That person was young Master Yao. Do Afterimage said solemnly. Oh, this person is so powerful? Lin Ling's eyes flashed. His strength isn't enough to suppress me. However, there are many experts following him and he has treasures on him. I can't do anything to him for the time being. Elder Do, this young Master Yao seems to have a powerful background. This young Master Yao is a member of the ancient demon tribe. The ancient demon tribe can be traced back to the era of the gods. They're the divine demon tribe and the main demon tribe in the 9 states and the 10,000 realms. Most importantly, they're one of the 9 states' 10 evils and they're ranked quite high. 9 states 10 evils? Chapter 3179. Save Yen? That's right. This group of demonic beasts has great rallying power. In the Eastern world they once swept through thousands of worlds. When the demonic beasts' army moved out, no one could stop them. If they also came to the ancient Forbidden Forest, it means that there must be something in the ancient Forbidden Forest that attracted them. Do Afterimage analyzed. Even the 9 prefectures' 10 evils are here. I'm even more convinced that senior sister Yu is in the ancient Forbidden Forest. Hearing this, Lin Ling smiled. But this is just a guess. Let's find out if young Master Yao is one of the 9 prefectures' 10 evils. Alright. Do Afterimage nodded. The two of them moved and appeared in the corridor. The trash in front, I have something to ask you. Lin Ling said directly. The few people in front were still moving forward. When they heard the sound behind them, their expressions changed instantly. When they turned around, they saw Lin Ling and Lin Feng. You are. One of them exclaimed. The strength of these people was only at the early stage of the half-saint realm, and they couldn't enter Lin Ling's eyes at all. Whoosh. A cold light flashed and a sword hung in front of the neck of one of them. Lin Ling and Yi Zichen instantly appeared in front of them. This action directly frightened those people. They knew that they had met an expert. You guys are pretty smart. You didn't shout or scream. Otherwise, my sword wouldn't show any mercy. Lin Ling smiled and said, let me ask you 2 questions. First, what is the background of this young demon master that you speak of? Young Master Yao? What young Master Yao? They looked at each other and shook their heads in confusion. Bang! Lin Ling kicked one of them in the face. The ferocious force directly smashed half of that person's teeth. Moreover, he heard Lin Ling's cold voice, I'll let you not know. I know. That young demon lord is extremely powerful. According to the sect leader, he seems to be a huge force in the 9 prefectures. The person who was kicked immediately confessed. Second question, is there a girl called Yen here? Lin Ling said again and slowly lifted his foot. This action made it clear to them that if they didn't answer, they would be served with a kick. But Yen? They had captured quite a number of people during this period of time, and for a moment they did not know who Yen was. Looks like you guys don't know. Seeing this, Lin Ling's voice became cold. Perhaps it was because the threat was too great that those people reacted instantly. They said anxiously, I remember now. When we first entered the Forbidden Forest we caught a few girls. One of them was called Yen. She also had a friend but she died on the way. Where is she now? You better not tell me that she's dead. Hearing this, Lin Ling's eyes turned cold. She's not dead. She's in the young master's room. Because the young master has taken a fancy to Yen hasn't been used by the sect leader to cultivate yet. Those people said in unison. Sect leader, you're using it for cultivation? What kind of cultivation technique does your sovereign cultivate that he actually needs the assistance of a young girl? How could we possibly know about the sect leader's cultivation method? Alright then, where is your young master? Walk along the corridor and you'll find the 3rd room. After a short conversation, Lin Ling had obtained the information he needed. He nodded at Do Kening then strode away. Do Kening sneered, letting those people know that this old man was going to kill them to silence them. You said that you wouldn't kill us. Idiots, when did we say that? Of course my young master is kind. He didn't say that he had to kill you. Do Kening said calmly. His words made those people's eyes light up, thinking that they could escape this calamity. However, just because the young master didn't say that he had to kill you doesn't mean that I won't kill you. However, in the next moment, a cold light flashed and the dagger reaped their lives. Do Kening had already come into contact with the Purple Cloud Sword sect twice and did not have a good impression of them. When he heard that the sect leader of the Purple Cloud Sword sect was using young girls for cultivation, his good impression of them was greatly reduced. This also caused Do Kening to not have a good impression of this sect's disciples. He would kill them on sight. Lin Ling walked along the corridor and soon found the third room. The sound of a young girl moaning in pain could be heard from inside. He saw a man who was as fat as a ball ravaging a young girl. There were a few other young girls tied up beside him, trembling in fear. Hee, after I'm done with this, it'll be your turn next. The fat man wriggled his body and laughed sinisterly. Bang. But at this moment, the door was kicked open and two figures walked in coldly. Who are you? This unforeseen event caused the fat man's face to change. You're the son of the Purple Cloud Sword sect's sect leader? The two people who came in were Lin Ling and Lin Ling. Lin Ling looked at the fat man in disgust and frowned. This man's strength could be said to be at the level of trash. It seemed that he was a hedonistic son who drank too much. How dare you? Do you know where this is? The man did not seem to know that he was about to die and was shouting loudly. Someone come. However, before Lin Ling entered the room, he had already set up a barrier to seal off the sound. Therefore, no matter how much the man shouted, no one came. This caused the man's face to finally change. He was not an idiot. These two people had barged into the Purple Cloud Sword sect's headquarters. They should have some ability. You're the son of the Purple Cloud Sword sect's sect leader. Lin Ling's hand turned into a knife and slashed out, instantly cutting open the man's stomach and leaving a pile of fat on the ground. You dare hurt me? When had the man suffered such pain? He shouted angrily. You're the son of the Purple Cloud Sword sect's sect leader. Lin Ling asked again. Another slash. Then he continued to cut. This fat man had too much fat. Anyway, he wouldn't die after a few slashes, so he might as well help him lose weight. I am the son of the sect leader. You want money, right? I'll give you as much as you want. The fat man could not bear the torture and begged for mercy in pain. You want money? Lin Ling and Du Kening laughed. What did he take them for? Bandits? I want your life. After laughing, Lin Ling could not be bothered to waste any more time. With a slash of his hand, he cut off the fat man's neck. Because he could tell at a glance that the fat man had done many bad things, he did not show any mercy. Looking at the girls around, they were so scared that their faces were pale, and they could not say a word. You don't have to panic. Today I'm just saving you. Who among you is called Yen? Lin Ling looked at the girls and said. The girls seemed to be still in fear, but soon a girl about 16 years old walked out and said, Senior, I'm Yen. Lin Ling looked her up and down and immediately nodded. I've been entrusted by your grandmother to save you today. You should go home now. But if we leave, the Purple Cloud Sword sect's sect leader will kill you. Yenner was shocked at first, then said worriedly. Hearing this, Lin Ling smiled faintly. Kill us? Sorry, we're the ones who will kill him. Chapter 3180. The girls in the room didn't seem to be able to react. Finally, one of them said, No matter who they are, this is our only chance to escape. Let's leave now. If the sect leader finds out, we'll definitely die. Okay. Everyone quickly and carefully left the room, afraid that they would alert someone. However, as soon as they walked out of the corridor, they heard a roar in front of them. A sword appeared in the hand of the blue-robed young man. With a slash of his sword, all the houses in front of him were destroyed. This caused the girls to be stunned. They wanted to leave carefully, but who knew that the young man would be so aggressive? It was as if he was afraid that no one would know he was here. He actually made a big fuss here. Don't tell me they want to fight against the entire Purple Cloud Sword sect. Okay, the girls said nervously. However, they knew that there was no time to lose, so they all ran out of here. Who's there? In just a moment, the manor was in an uproar. A large number of martial artists with purple swords arrived. They stared at Lin Ling and the young man in surprise. Because these two people had appeared in the manor, which was heavily protected, and they didn't notice at all. If these two people hadn't courted death and caused a commotion, they probably wouldn't have noticed anyone approaching in this lifetime. Especially when they thought of the Grim Reaper hiding next to them when they slept at night, they couldn't help but shiver. The murderous intent in their eyes became even stronger. "Where's your sect leader?" Seeing the group of people as if they were facing a great enemy, Lin Ling said calmly. "Who are you two and why are you here?" Not long after, a gentle-looking middle-aged man walked over. He wore a purple robe and held a purple longsword in his hand. The sword was 2 meters long, and a purple rainbow swam around the blade. It looked extremely extraordinary. This was a supreme weapon that had reached the 3rd grade. This middle-aged man was the sect leader of the Purple Cloud Sword sect. His cultivation was at the peak of the half-step saint stage. Seeing this, Lin Ling and the young man relaxed. The sect leader of the Purple Cloud Sword sect wasn't as strong as they thought. "Let's put it this way. We're here today to kill you." Lin Ling went straight to the point. These words caused the people from the Purple Cloud Sword sect to be stunned. This person was really straightforward. "In addition, one of your elders in the ancient Forbidden Forest died in our hands," Lin Ling added. "You're the one who stole the map?" The sect leader came to a realization, and his eyes were filled with anger. "Say it again. Your precious son, that fatty, was just killed by us." Lin Ling's words were shocking to the extreme, and his words finally caused the sect master to fly into a rage. "You don't have to say anything. Next, those who want to die with the sect leader can stay. As for those who want to live, throw down your swords and I'll spare your lives." Before the sect master could speak, Lin Ling spoke first. This was turning the tables. The sect master was furious. He hadn't even made the first move, and these two had already sentenced him to death. As for the members of the Violet Cloud Sword sect, they all frowned. Although they didn't quite believe Lin Ling's words, Lin Ling's confidence affected them again. Would they really die if they stayed? They were obviously hesitating. Do you think his words will count? Let me tell you, if you surrender, it'll be your turn after those two die. At this moment, the sect leader of the Violet Cloud Sword sect said coldly. His words made them even more hesitant. Perhaps, in their lives, this was the time when they were most hesitant. One was the sect leader. The other was a mysterious powerhouse. If they made the wrong choice, their lives would be left here. "I can kill your elders, and I even dare to provoke your sect leader. Do you think I'm here to play?" As if he could sense their hesitation, Lin Ling spoke as well. His words made everyone's foreheads break out in cold sweat. "I surrender." Finally, a young man threw down the sword in his hand. He was the last to join the Violet Cloud Sword sect, and he didn't know how powerful the Violet Cloud Sword sect was. Therefore he was very afraid of Lin Ling and Lin Ling. "Purple bamboo you." An old man from the Violet Cloud Sword sect spoke in an exasperated voice. He roared, "The Violet Cloud Sword sect is a powerful sect in the west of the 9 states. Over the years, we've encountered many powerful enemies, but in the end, our Violet Cloud Sword sect still survives, and those powerful enemies are all dead. Don't make the wrong choice." As soon as these words were spoken, everyone finally made a decision. The young man who'd thrown down his sword was shocked. He hurriedly wanted to pick it up, but the old man said, "It's too late, it's too late." The young man immediately revealed an expression of regret. It seems that only one person has surrendered. This shows that our Violet Cloud Sword sect is very united. At this moment, the sect leader nodded in satisfaction. He looked at Lin Ling and said, "You have a good plan. First, you tried to drive a wedge between us, bewitching our sect and trying to weaken our strength. Unfortunately, you were too optimistic. Even if the entire sect betrayed me, I can still defeat all of you alone. The reason why I didn't say anything before was to see how many people are loyal to me. However, I'm satisfied with your results." Lin Ling smiled and said indifferently, "Elder Do, attack." "Yes, young master." Do Kening smiled coldly and disappeared on the spot as if he'd never appeared. This caused the sect leader of the Violet Cloud Sword sect's expression to change. Unfortunately, no one knew how powerful Do Kening was. On the contrary, the others were cheering, hoping that the sect leader could kill the enemy with a single strike. "Sect leader, we believe in you." Everyone was shouting loudly. Whoosh. However, before they could finish speaking, a cold light flashed in the void. Soon, it reached the speed of 100 worlds. Oh no! The sect leader of the Violet Cloud Sword sect's expression changed, and he brandished his long sword. Clang. As expected of a sect leader, he had rich combat experience. He actually managed to block the fatal blow. However, Do Kening was at the Saint Realm. Even if he was lucky enough to block the attack, what could he do? Moreover, the long sword in the sect leader's hand was instantly broken into pieces by the dagger. This move directly scared the surrounding people silly. Although they couldn't understand the collision between two experts, They could still see that their sect leader couldn't withstand a single blow. How is this possible? The old man from before let out a sharp cry. The others trembled. They seemed to have made the wrong bet. Kill that young man. The old man knew that in order to catch bandits, he had to capture the leader first. If he could capture Lin Ling, then everything would be over. After all, Do Kening seemed to be led by Lin Ling. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The elders of the Violet Cloud Sword sect unleashed their full strength and pounced on Lin Ling. However, in their eyes, Lin Ling was still standing there with his hands behind his back. He didn't seem to notice them at all. He's only at the 3rd level of the half-saint realm. How can he see through our means? Chapter 3181. Young Master Yao's invitation. He was going to torture them to death. No, he was going to use them to forge his sword. However, they were too optimistic. The young master in their eyes wasn't as weak as they thought. Lin Ling's footsteps finally moved, and he lightly stepped on the ground. Rumble. Something terrifying happened. Lin Ling seemed to have awakened the plants of the netherworld. Black vines grew wildly around him. The entire manor turned into a demonic forest in an instant. The elders who attacked were only at the 7th stage of the half-saint realm. How could they block the vines? They were all entangled and hung in midair. The black vines bared their fangs and brandished their claws. They were extremely terrifying. Amidst the vines, a huge sword appeared in Lin Ling's hand. With a light slash, heads fell to the ground. It was as if he was strolling in his own garden. But this kind of method directly frightened the Purple Cloud Sword sect. Retreat. Even the sect master's expression changed. His opponent had already frightened him. However, the young master wasn't any weaker. He was only at the 3rd stage of the half-saint realm. However, his methods weren't something they could see through. Even a late-stage half-saint realm expert wouldn't be his match. Bang. He slapped the broken sword in his hand. The broken sword turned into endless dust and shot out in all directions. Borrowing this move, he madly fled into the distance. Ah, sect master. Of course, this move was a large-scale attack. Therefore, many of the Purple Cloud Sword sect's members were killed. Little Kunlun, leave that young man behind. Kill the rest. Seeing the sect master escape, how could Lin Ling let him go? He and Do Xianing would both be punished. Kunlun. A crisp sound rang out. The black vines grew crazily and covered the entire manor. No one could escape. In the ancient city, many cultivators saw this scene and sucked in a breath of cold air. In his eyes, countless vines sealed off the manor, forming a world of plants that reached thousands of miles high. What is this? As for Yen and the other girls, they were still hiding in the ancient city. However, when they saw this scene, they were shocked. The endless vines were like a tide, cutting at each other. Everyone from the Purple Cloud Sword sect died, and within the vines, only a single youth remained unscathed. He had already fallen to the ground in fright, his eyes staring at the sword beside him. He was the one who abandoned the sword. Because he abandoned the sword, he was still alive. In the entire Purple Cloud Sword sect, he was the only one who made the right bet. At this moment, Lin Ling and Do Xianing were chasing after the sect master. To their surprise, the sect master didn't escape the manor. Instead, he ran to a luxurious hall. Xianxia uses Xianing yu Xianxian. This caused Do Afterimage's expression to change slightly. He was an assassin and his job was to hunt down the strongest. However, even now, he still couldn't detect any traces of the sect master. Xianxian to Liu Xianxian. Xian Lin Ling stared ahead with his 10,000 mammoth demonic eyes and sneered coldly. In the hall, he saw barriers hidden in every corner. These barriers were hidden very deeply. If not for the myriad mammoth demonic eyes, he wouldn't have noticed them. Of course, as long as he could find this barrier, breaking it wouldn't be difficult. That guy still has this kind of technique? Hearing this, Do Afterimage was also shocked. In his eyes, Lin Ling waved his hands and began to break the barrier. A moment later, a bronze door appeared in the corner of the hall. In fact, the bronze door had always been there, but the people who entered the hall were concealed by the barrier, so they couldn't sense it at all. This bronze door can hide all auras, so we can't find him through the aura. However, as long as we enter the bronze door, we will be able to find his aura. Lin Ling took the lead, opened the bronze door and entered. Inside there was a dim corridor. As they walked forward, they saw a huge secret chamber. At the same time, a middle-aged man was rapidly collecting the treasures on the ground. He was the Grand Master. He could have escaped from the manor, but he didn't want to give up the treasures in the secret chamber. He was still hiding in the manor with the hope of getting lucky. However, he also noticed Lin Ling and Do Afterimage's arrival, and his face changed drastically. Sure enough, two figures slowly walked out from the shadows. Seniors, I have countless treasures here. I'll give them all to you. I hope you can spare my life. The Grandmaster knelt down and handed over a large number of treasures. These treasures were indeed extraordinary. There were many imperial crystals, pills, and rare spiritual herbs. However, the two of them ignored him. Instead, they looked around and saw a large number of young girls hanging by spiritual chains. Many of the chains were inserted into their bodies, and a mysterious power was being sucked out of their bodies. Looking at the source of all the chains, it was a purple sword that exuded an evil aura. The Grandmaster was using countless young girls to forge a sword. At this moment, Lin Ling's eyes turned cold. He stretched out his left hand and a 5-meter-long dragon bow appeared. A dragon roared and shot an arrow at the evil purple sword. No. When the Grandmaster saw this, he cried out in alarm. Unfortunately, it was useless. Under the arrow, the evil sword shattered and let out a young girl's cry of pain. You deserve to die. Lin Ling turned his bow and pointed it at the Grandmaster. Don't kill me, don't kill me. I can give you anything you want. When the Grandmaster saw this, he couldn't care less about the pain in his heart and cried out anxiously. No treasure can exchange for your life. Lin Ling shook his head. The arrow was fatal. Rumble. Moreover, this arrow was extremely terrifying. It was no longer in the shape of a thin arrow. Instead, it was extremely thick and solid like a huge dragon god. After breaking through to the Grandmaster level, his entire body was smashed into pieces and he couldn't be more dead. Lin Ling looked around and held the sword in his hand. He cut off the spiritual chains on the young girls one by one. During this process, Do Afterimage went to collect the treasures. As for the young girls who were saved, some of them woke up, while others had closed their eyes forever. Take them away from here. Looking at the young girls who were saved, Lin Ling sighed softly. If he had come earlier, he could have saved more people. Thank you, benefactor. All the girls looked at Lin Ling with gratitude. From today onwards, they had escaped from the sea of bitterness. But no matter what happened in the future, the blue-robed youth today was something they would never forget for the rest of their lives. Young master, come here. At this time, Do Afterimage cried out in alarm and Lin Ling hurried over. Do Afterimage collected most of the treasures on the ground and handed them over to Lin Ling. An exquisite jade token appeared in Do Afterimage's hand. The jade token had a ferocious beast's head on it and it was biting on a piece of jade. The words Demon Token were engraved on it. This is... Lin Ling was puzzled. Young Demon Master's invitation token. Do Afterimage said with a profound smile. Hearing this, Lin Ling also smiled. He was thinking about how to join Young Demon Master's plan, but now he had received an invitation token. Chapter 3182. The key to enter the mountain. This token is also pointing out the direction. I think it's the gathering place. Du Kening said again. Then there's no time to lose. Let's hurry over. The two of them hurriedly left the secret chamber. When they arrived outside the manor, they saw a large number of young girls quietly waiting there. When they saw Lin Ling, they all bowed in gratitude. Thank you, benefactor. Neat voices drifted out. Everyone, there's no need to be so courteous. Saving you guys was just a small matter. Everyone go back. Lin Ling couldn't help but smile as he looked at the girls. He stared at one of them and said, Yen, right? After you go back, help me thank your grandmother for that meal. These words naturally caused Yenner to be a little confused. However, Lin Ling did not explain anything and left with Do Kening. Seeing Lin Ling leave in such a carefree manner, many young girls felt reluctant to part with him. But in the end, they missed their families and left one by one. It was the same for Yenner. After a day of traveling, she finally returned to her hometown. Looking at the ancient city, she felt as if she had survived a disaster. Then she rushed into the ancient city. Grandma, Uncle Kizi. The feeling of surviving a calamity was great. Of course, Yen also wanted to know why that handsome young man had helped her. At this moment in the ancient city, the old granny finally woke up. However, her face was pale and incomparably sad. One had to know that she had experienced a very long life and had seen through everything. The only thing she cared about was her little granddaughter. But now her granddaughter was gone. What was the point of her living? But at this moment, a familiar voice came from afar. Her mind jolted and so did the others. They rushed out of the hut and saw a young girl running over from afar. Who else could this young girl be but Yenner? Yenner. The old granny cried out in alarm and frantically pounced over. The others also trembled and they all became excited. Yenner, you're finally back. This isn't a dream, right? The old granny hugged Yen and said incoherently, "I'm back, I'm finally back. Grandma, the people you invited are really formidable. Not only did they save me, they even saved many innocent people." Yen started crying as she spoke. However, her words stunned the others. The old granny said, "We didn't invite anyone. They were from the Violet Glow Sword sect. How could ordinary people be a match for them? Grandma, those two people directly destroyed the Purple Cloud Sword sect. Of the entire sword sect, only one person escaped. Why would I lie to you?" Yen was also stunned for a moment. Then she frowned and said, "Grandma, did you treat a young man to a meal? He was wearing a blue robe and looked very handsome. Yesterday there was a young man who came to eat. Could it be that he saved you?" The old granny suddenly thought of something and her whole body trembled. Never had she imagined that because of a moment of kindness, that young man would actually save her granddaughter. Kinkenazis. How could a mere few bowls of aqua spirit rice compare to her granddaughter's life? It's him. The robust man and the others at the side gasped as well. They felt that the young man was very amiable earlier, so they thought that the young man was just an ordinary person. But never had they imagined that the two of them had actually overturned the entire Violet Dawn Sword sect. So, their hearts trembled once more when they thought up to here. They'd failed to recognize such an expert when he was right by their side. Most importantly, they'd actually looked down upon these experts and reprimanded them. Fortunately, they didn't mind. Otherwise, they'd probably be dead. At this moment, Lin Ling didn't know what had happened here. Even if he did, he wouldn't care. In his opinion, he would definitely not miss a chance to help others. Moreover, he'd finally repaid the favor he owed the old granny. Both of them moved swiftly through the forest according to the direction indicated by the command token. However, to Lin Ling's surprise, the devil beasts they encountered grew stronger and stronger as they went deeper into the forest. There were some devil beasts that even Do Kening didn't dare face. After all, Do Kening was at the 3rd level of the Saint Realm. Coupled with his identity as an assassin, he'd even killed a 5th level Saint Realm expert. From this, one could see how ferocious these devil beasts were. Fortunately, even though Lin Ling couldn't deal with the devil beasts, his illusion god True Inheritance was powerful. Therefore, he was able to avoid the devil beasts and even save Do Kening a few times. "Young master, your soul force martial technique is too heaven-defying. You have to know that devil beasts are naturally sensitive. Ordinary concealment techniques can't avoid their intuition. On the other hand, your illusions can deceive them." Do Kening couldn't help but speak with admiration. Lin Ling's cultivation wasn't high, but he was unable to see through his various trump cards. Moreover, those trump cards were still in the growth stage. It was hard to imagine how terrifying their might would be if they were fully developed. That was indeed the case. Lin Ling's great solar calamity bow had only shot 3 arrows at the moment. He just touched the threshold of the 1,000 transformations True Inheritance. As for the scabbard and the space-time divine steel, they hadn't reached their limits. Not long after, an ancient mountain appeared in front of them. The mountain was surrounded by black silt that rolled and emitted a fishy smell. This mountain was one of the more conspicuous mountains in the vicinity. However, the mountain was extremely quiet. Aside from the silt, there was nothing else. "Wait!" Lin Ling suddenly shouted and stopped Do Kening from moving forward, causing Do Kening to be puzzled. Lin Ling didn't say much. He kicked a stone at his feet. Just as the stone passed above the silt seemed to awaken like a devil beast. It turned into a huge mouth and swallowed the stone. Seeing this, Lin Ling's expression changed slightly. He activated his 10,000 elephant demon eyes and saw an ancient stone tablet buried in the depths of the silt. The stone tablet was engraved with complicated runes and was bound by a chain. It seemed to be engraved at the core of the silt. "What is this?" Do Kening gasped. "World-swallowing beast," Lin Ling said solemnly, "and it's a world-swallowing beast controlled by someone." "What?" Do Kening was shocked. The world-swallowing beast was an extremely mysterious existence in the universe. Someone actually controlled the world-swallowing beast. It seems like we're in the territory of young demon master. Other than the ancient demon race, no one else should have such means, Lin Ling said as he looked into the distance. His godly demon body was also a world-swallowing beast, so he felt a sense of familiarity. "Take out the token and see if we can enter the mountain," Lin Ling said. Do Kening quickly did as he was told. However, after the token appeared, the silt in front of them rolled and a yellow road appeared. The road led to the mountain. "Let's go." Lin Ling suddenly understood that the token was the key to entering the mountain. Chapter 3183. Probing. Most importantly, This realm-swallowing beast was the biggest one Lin Ling had ever seen. It could easily swallow a saint. Fortunately, their journey forward was safe and sound. Instead, a gap appeared in front of them and a large number of cultivators were standing in front of the gap. These martial artists were all dressed differently, as if they were on guard against something. "Who are you?" Lin Ling and the others had just approached when one of them shouted angrily. "I was invited." Seeing this, Lin Ling replied indifferently. "Oh, then what power do you belong to?" Hearing this, the people in front seemed to have let down their guard. "Purple Cloud Sword Sect." Lin Ling spoke again. "Everyone be careful. This person might have been sent by other forces. Get ready to notify the realm-swallowing beast and devour them." Who knew that just as Lin Ling opened his mouth, the people over there immediately acted as if they were facing a great enemy. This made Do Afterimage's eyes turn cold. He was ready to kill. Before the world-swallowing beast could swallow him, he rushed into the mountain. But Lin Ling stopped him. "What nonsense are you talking about?" On the contrary, Lin Ling slowly walked forward. "We've seen the Purple Cloud Sword Sect before. They have quite a few people and they all have purple swords in their hands. But you don't have purple swords and there are only 2 of you. Therefore, I am sure that you are not from the Purple Cloud Sword Sect. Speak, who are you?" The one who spoke was a one-armed man. Hearing this, Lin Ling didn't speak any further. He continued forward until he arrived before the one-armed man and fiercely slapped him. "Have you fucking eaten shit? How dare you slander our Purple Cloud Sword Sect?" This slap instantly stunned the one-armed man, and it was the same for Do Afterimage. However, he was prepared to face the wrath of these experts. But unexpectedly, this slap had the opposite effect. I was just testing the waters. After all, young Master Yao's grand plan is no small matter. I'm most afraid that other forces will sneak in and cause trouble. I hope you can forgive me for offending you earlier." The one-armed man suddenly laughed and bowed slightly towards Lin Ling. This caused Do Afterimage's eyes to flash. He immediately knew that this was a test. If they weren't from the Purple Cloud Sword Sect, then they would have felt guilty after being yelled at by the one-armed man. If they were from the real Purple Cloud Sword Sect, then they would have tried their best to clear their names. Although, this kind of trick was full of loopholes if one thought about it carefully. But from the mouth of the world-swallowing beast, most people would not have thought so much. "Young master, you're quite experienced." Do Afterimage couldn't help but secretly admire Lin Ling. However, who would have thought that Lin Ling would slap him again, as if he was still angry? "Do you know what you were doing before? If we leave, young Master Yao's plan will be ruined by you. When that happens, can you bear the responsibility?" Lin Ling roared and scolded the one-armed man until he was bleeding profusely. But the more it was like this, the more certain these people were that Lin Ling and the others were from the Purple Cloud Sword Sect. "Young master, we have offended you before." The one-armed man quickly took out an imperial crystal and handed it to Lin Ling with a smile. "We are from the Tiger Wolf Sect in the west of Jianghu. We were ordered by young Master Yao to guard the gate. We have offended you before, please forgive us." "That's more like it." Lin Ling knew when to stop, but he still looked as if he was still angry. Going. Young Master Yao said that the invited sects are like honored guests. Once you enter, you can eat and drink well. You can have whatever you want. The one-armed man and the others were completely afraid of Lin Ling. They couldn't wait for this little brat to enter the mountain. "Let's go." Lin Ling snorted and walked forward slowly. Behind him, Do Afterimage was tongue-tied. There were imperial crystals to buy? Only young master would be able to do something like this as a fake. The 2 of them entered the mountain through the gap. What was surprising was that the mountain seemed to be another world. It was like a huge city. There were restaurants, inns, and a large number of beautiful women on the streets for him to pick. Looking around, it was crowded. There were experts from sects, itinerant cultivators, and even people from dynasties. This young Master Yao is really daring. He actually summoned so many big forces. Do Afterimage said secretly, "I wonder who they are fighting against." Those who can fight against the ancient demon race are the other Jianghu 10 evils, and the big forces of Jianghu such as the Heavenly Court, the Flying Dragon Organization, Fuhang Manor, and so on. Of course, we can't rule out the possibility of the Jianghu Divine Emperors. Lin Ling said secretly. If the Jianghu Divine Emperors are also here, they must be on the same level as Emperor Yu of Yuzhou. The other Divine Emperors are not qualified to fight against them. Do Afterimage nodded and suddenly reminded, "Be careful, someone is watching us." "I have sensed it too. This young Master Yao is really cautious." Lin Ling nodded secretly and led Do Afterimage forward. Along the way, he flirted with a beauty and then brought her into the inn. After entering the inn, Lin Ling sensed that the surveillance had disappeared. It seemed that the surveillance was only a general investigation. However, when they saw Lin Ling's lecherous look, they obviously relaxed their vigilance. After Lin Ling knocked out the beautiful woman who brought him into the inn, he immediately set up a barrier and began to wait quietly. 3 days passed quietly. On this day, all the powerful beings were gathered on the streets. Following which, an elderly man and a young man walked out. The elderly man took the lead and said, "I'm indebted to everyone for participating in this mission. On behalf of the ancient demon race, I would like to thank everyone." The young man had his hands behind his back and narrowed his eyes. He looked like he was only an 8th-stage half-saint, but no one dared to underestimate him. This was because there was a mysterious aura around him. It was especially so for Lin Ling. His 10,000 mammoth devil eyes could clearly sense the enormous demon god elephant behind the young man. This demon god was so terrifying that it seemed to be able to swallow Qing province in one gulp. This also made Lin Ling realize that this person might be the young Master Yao of the ancient demon race. Because we are going to enter that place and take back the sacred object of the demon race, we are counting on everyone. However, as long as everyone contributes, you will be able to obtain the ancient demon race's token. You will be able to summon the demon race's army once. This is an absolute guarantee token. Everyone take it. The old man waved his right hand and a large number of tokens flew out and landed in everyone's hands. Everyone was ecstatic. This was the strongest life-saving trump card. So good. Do Afterimage was secretly shocked. This token has a seal on it. On the surface, it looks like it can summon the ancient demon tribe. However, it will only be effective after a year. This means that if everyone dies in the following journey, the token will no longer be effective. Therefore, this token is only used to temporarily calm people down. Lin Ling shook his head and quietly destroyed the barrier on the token. This was because he discovered that the token also had a tracking barrier. It could track everyone's whereabouts. This is only the first reward. After we reach that place, there will be more rewards. However, our opponents are not weak. There are the 9 prefectures, 10 evils, the land of eternal slumber, the immortal temple, the divine escort mansion, the heavenly court, and Emperor Yu of Yu province. These are the opponents we know about. There are bound to be opponents we don't know about. Therefore, I hope that everyone can work together. The old man said again, and many people nodded excitedly. Chapter 3184. Fire God Ant. Let's go. The old man did not say much. He raised his arms and shouted, "Let's go." All the experts were in high spirits as they left the mountain in a grandiose manner. They did not even know their destination, but they were still so excited. Lin Ling shook his head. These people were being used by others and they probably did not know. Of course, some were excited and some were as calm as Lin Ling. They hid in the crowd and followed the crowd. A large group of people passed through the ancient forbidden forest. There were Sage Realm strong fighters and half-sages. The strongest were undoubtedly young Beast Master and the group of people around him. However, the demonic beasts in the ancient forbidden forest seemed to have been left behind by the gods. They had been changed by the gods and were naturally stronger than the demonic beasts outside. Moreover, through the conversations of the martial artists, Lin Ling knew that even the ancient cities left behind in the ancient forbidden forest seemed to have been left behind by the gods. Some of these ancient cities were left intact, and some were moved from other places. It was as if a god had lived in the ancient forbidden forest a long time ago. Along the way, Lin Ling secretly checked on young Beast Master. He realized that young Beast Master was stronger than he had imagined. He was afraid that the realm-swallowing beast was controlled by young Beast Master. Without the realm-swallowing beast, Lin Ling was confident that he would not be weaker than young Beast Master. But now he could not help but admire young Beast Master. Young Beast Master was obviously a genius of the 9 states. He was probably not much weaker than Li Xiaoyao in the past. Of course, Lin Ling did not dare to check too much. He was afraid that young Beast Master would discover him. Along the way, the group encountered extremely strong demonic beasts. Even strong fighters like young Beast Master could not do anything about them. They were forced to change their path. From this, Lin Ling knew that young Beast Master had a map. Moreover, Lin Ling knew that young Beast Master had a more comprehensive map. Of course, Lin Ling had a part of the map. The missing part might be very important. On this day, young Beast Master suddenly raised his fist. The group immediately stopped and looked at young Beast Master. Young Beast Master's expression was very serious. Everyone was shocked. For young Beast Master to have such an expression, could there be something in front of them? Drip 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 drip. Almost at the same time, a sound that made one's scalp go numb rang out. like raindrops falling to the ground. Upon closer inspection, the ground of the forest ahead was actually red soil. No, it wasn't red soil. Instead, there were unknown insects crawling on it. Most importantly, there were so many of them that they covered the entire ground. There was no end in sight. Young Master Yao, what is that? Seeing this, the old man next to the young beast lord cried out in alarm. He was a late-stage Saint Realm expert, but at that moment his face was filled with fear. Fire God Ant. Young Master Yao spat out a sentence. What? The fear on the old man's face grew even stronger. He asked, do we need to take a detour? We can't take a detour. We're almost at the demon metropolis. If we take another detour, who knows how much time we'll have to waste. Most importantly, the other factions have probably already entered the demon metropolis. We can't be slower than them. Young Yao said coldly. But the old man hesitated. Barge in. The young beast lord raised his arm. His words caused the expressions of all the cultivators to change drastically. The path of martial arts is filled with thorns. How can it be peaceful? If you want to become a god, you can't do without suffering. Everyone charge in with me. Without waiting for the others to say anything, the young beast lord had already taken the lead. He turned into a green light, and his speed reached 60 world speed. Meanwhile, the others were still hesitating. Young master, how is it? Do Kening also hurriedly looked at Lin Ling. Lin Ling's eyes continued to flicker. This land was filled with fire god ants. This was an extremely terrifying demonic beast that specialized in devouring the realm essence of martial artists. They were not afraid of the power of water, fire, lightning, wind, and so on. Moreover, as long as a single fire god ant entered the body, the martial artist Dan Tian would be bitten into pieces. According to the rules, they definitely couldn't go in now. However, if they didn't go in, they would miss out on an yuer. Moreover, entering a dangerous place was extremely dangerous. The path of survival was often hidden in the path of death. Go in. Lin Ling said decisively. He shot forward with Do Kening. At this moment, many people had already moved. On the ground, the fiery red ants gradually wriggled like an ocean. It made one's scalp tingle. Before long, someone in front was swallowed by the fire god ants. He cried out in pain. Not even his bones were left behind. He was directly eaten clean. Go to hell. Someone panicked and released a powerful martial art. A light wave blasted towards the fire god ants. Stop. The young beast lord at the front roared. He looked anxious, but it was clearly too late. The fire god ants had a hard red shell. The light wave could only disperse them, but it couldn't kill them. On the contrary, the fire god ants on the ground had all awakened. They flew up in a mighty manner, filling the sky. And this was the result of the attack. Young master, speed up. Do Kenying's expression changed when he saw this terrifying scene. He dragged Lin Ling's arm and rushed forward crazily. Lin Ling only had 50 world speed. Naturally, he couldn't compare to an assassin like him. Do Kening burst forth with full speed. Lin Ling continued to attack. He waved his sword and swept the fire god ants away. Looking around, martial artists were falling one after another. Some didn't even have time to cry out in pain before their souls were scattered. The path of martial arts was full of thorns. At this moment it was exposed. Heaven and hell were only one step away. Not good. Before long, Do Kenying's expression turned ugly. A large area of fire clouds had appeared in front of them. Moreover, it was enveloping them. They had nowhere to run. Illusionary god true inheritance, 1,000 transformations. At the critical moment, Lin Ling released illusions. He controlled everything within 1,000 miles. Finally, he used the illusions to bewitch the fire god ants. The two of them rushed out from the side. Even so, their foreheads were covered in cold sweat. Young master, be careful. However, Do Kening suddenly stared at Lin Ling. This was because there was a fire god ant crawling on Lin Ling's arm. If the fire god ant entered his body, then Lin Ling's dantian would definitely collapse. Kunlun. At the critical moment, the black vines grew crazily and wrapped around Lin Ling's left arm. They entangled the fire god ant and began to devour it. What surprised Lin Ling was that it was just a fire god ant, but little Kunlun had been devouring it for a long time. It had even entered a deep slumber. From this, it could be seen how strong the fire god ant's defense was. Looking back, the crowd was falling one after another. It was as though this path had been forcefully opened with blood. No wonder young demon master wanted to gather the various large sections. So that's why. Lin Ling also completely understood young demon master's intentions. With young demon master alone, he might not be able to clear this hurdle. And this fiery red land was vast and boundless, as though there was no end to it. Fortunately, Lin Ling had rushed into the sea of fire god ants in the first few waves. This actually brought him benefits. This was because the fire god ants were mostly staring at the martial artists behind. As for those martial artists who were hesitating previously, they were now in trouble. Chapter 3185. The atmosphere was tense. When he turned back to look, the fire god ants behind him made his scalp go numb. They had already formed a large cloud of fire. Only a few people were lucky enough to rush out. As for young Master Yao, he stared coldly behind him. No one knew what he was thinking. "Young Master, I'm afraid there are less than 3,000 people rushing over," the old man said solemnly. "I've already guessed it." Young Demon Lord snorted coldly and left. This time they had gathered tens of thousands of people, but now there were less than 3,000 people left. From this, one could see how cruel the ancient forbidden forest was. Everyone moved forward again, but this time they were much more cautious. Fortunately, young Master reacted quickly. If we had hesitated before, we wouldn't have been able to pass this hurdle. Following that, everyone's afterimages appeared beside Lin Ling. They felt as if they had just survived a calamity. As the king of assassins, his name had caused the entire 9 continents to tremble in fear. However, in the ancient forbidden forest he was nothing more than a puny ant. This forbidden area of the 9 prefectures was a place where only the strongest experts of the 9 prefectures dared to come and play. If it weren't for the fact that there were enough people to attract the fire god ant's attention, we might not have been able to make it here. It's a pity for those people. Lin Ling shook his head. Young Master is still not ruthless enough. You should know that I would rather betray the world than let the world betray me. Their death is better than our death. Afterimage was an assassin, so he was naturally more ruthless. Hearing that, Lin Ling didn't say much. He was not a saint who only cared about the people around him. But this time, it was those innocent people who used their lives to save him. This made him feel a little guilty. After all, Lin Ling's principle was to treat others the same way they treated him. Moving forward, they arrived at a hilly area that looked like ruins. The ground was riddled with holes, and there were holes the size of a finger. The surroundings were filled with towering and ferocious boulders. They sat on the ground like demonic beasts, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. "Young Master Yao?" Not long after, a cry of surprise came from the front. He saw a large group of people gathered under a huge rock. Many of them were looking at Lin Ling. This was clearly another force. Celestial Emperor? Emperor Yun? Godly Escort Mansion? At the same time, young Master Yao stopped and looked at the group of people indifferently. Both sides immediately acted as if they were facing a great enemy. "I didn't expect the Heaven Sovereign and the Cloud Sovereign to join the Godly Escort Mansion." Young Master Yao clasped his hands behind his back and secretly checked his surroundings. Then he stepped forward slowly. Obviously, he didn't see any more powerful experts around him, which made him relax a little. Moreover, his gaze swept across the ground, and he immediately saw a huge bone dragon corpse. Although it had turned into a fossil, the dragon's might still hadn't decreased. With just his eyesight, young Master Yao knew that it was a nether dragon corpse terror. At the same time, Lin Ling also stared at the Celestial Emperor. Wasn't this the Celestial Emperor from the great world's Jianghu family? In the past, he had been completely dominated by his boat of gods. Who would have thought that he would meet him here? However, there were a lot of people around young Master Yao, so the Celestial Arch did not see Lin Ling. We are Celestial Emperors. How can we do such a shameful thing? We didn't join the Divine Escort Mansion. We were invited by the Heavenly Court. After a moment of silence, the Celestial Arch also spoke. Obviously, he also saw that although young Master Yao had a lot of experts, it shouldn't be enough to defeat them. The Heavenly Court? Speaking of the Heavenly Court, veins appeared on young Master Yao's forehead. There were even mysterious demon runes flashing. He said coldly, "You guys are really dogs. There are so many great forces in the 9 states. You don't listen to their orders, but you listen to the Heavenly Court. Very good, very good." He seemed to be angry. The Heavenly Court's vitality has been greatly damaged, so they invited us experts to help. We don't listen to their orders. Young Master Yao, I know you want the Nether Dragon corpse, but have you asked for our permission? The Cloud Sovereign also spoke. He was the strongest Celestial Emperor in the Cloud State. Although the Eternal Forbidden Forest belongs to the Cloud State, this is a place left behind by the gods. In this place you can't summon the ancient power. Without the ancient power, you, Cloud Sovereign, are just an ordinary saint. This Nether Dragon corpse, I want it. Young Master Yao bared his teeth. They were like the teeth of a demon god. The two forces began to draw their swords and bows. A great battle on the level of the 9 states instantly erupted. They were all fighting for the nether dragon corpse on the ground. This was a dragon god corpse, and it had the demon dragon attribute of the dragon race. And the nether dragon's rank was extremely high among the dragon gods. It was even higher than the Yin dragon. Its corpse was also full of treasures. Rumble. For this treasure, the two sides crazily clashed, causing countless deaths and injuries. On the other hand, young Master Yao was fighting the Cloud Sovereign alone. Demonic aura surged from his body. His entire body seemed to have turned into an octopus, and countless arms appeared behind him. Legend has it that young Master Yao was nurtured by the 10,000 demonic beast pill. You have the aura and talent of 10,000 demonic beasts. Boom. The Cloud Sovereign was in the Saint Realm, which was several realms higher than young Master Yao. Naturally, he wasn't afraid. Boom. Boom. In the sky, a chaotic battle broke out. The white clouds and rolling demonic clouds continued to clash. As for the Divine Escort Mansion and the Sky Emperor, they were fighting with the people beside young Master Yao. It had to be said that the Sky Emperor wasn't very strong. On the other hand, there were 3 saints from the Divine Escort Mansion who were stronger. One of them was holding a brush and his power had reached 80%. Another one was holding a sky-splitting axe, and he had a 6th grade desolate body talent. Moreover, his true god martial soul had been unsealed, reaching the 4th seal. The last one was a woman. She held a red whip and it looked like a dancing dragon. These 3 were the best of the Divine Escort Mansion. They were existences that couldn't be underestimated in the Saint Realm. Lin Ling and the Sky Emperor had also joined the battle. They looked weak, but their overall strength was above average. However, they weren't stupid enough to use their full strength. Therefore, they dealt with their opponents. Lin Ling was fighting with an expert at the 7th level of the Half-Saint Realm while he was investigating the surroundings. The expert was very depressed. His opponent was clearly a 3rd heaven half-saint, and he was about to kill him, but he was able to escape from his killing intent. This made him feel as if the blue-robed young man was playing with him. Most importantly, the blue-robed young man exclaimed from time to time, "So powerful! I can't block this move anymore." In fact, the blue-robed young man was still able to block it easily. Fuck. What the hell is this guy? The expert was speechless. He looked at Lin Ling again. "Young master, what's wrong?" Lin Ling nodded. "What's wrong?" This was because Lin Ling was a little absent-minded. "Hee, I didn't expect this to be a dragon's den. Although, follow me." After a while, Lin Ling sent a telepathic message to the Sky Emperor. Apparently, his 10,000 demonic eyes had detected something strange. Of course, the most important thing was that he sensed a familiar summoning sound. It came from the scabbard behind him. This made him think that there must be a broken sword nearby. Without saying anything else, Lin Ling sent the expert in front of him flying. Then he and the Sky Emperor went underground and approached the ground quietly. Chapter 3186. Nether Dragon Accompanying Liquid. Lin Ling gradually came to the side of a huge rock. This huge rock was like a tower and there were claw marks on it. It seemed to have been scratched by the claws of the Nether Dragon. Beside the huge dragon, there was a small hole half the size of a person. It looked extremely ordinary. But Lin Ling immediately charged into the cave. The cave was not big and could be seen in one glance. The ground was littered with treasures, but after so long, those treasures were a bit dim. Instead, a fragrance floated over. On a platform there was a broken eggshell. The eggshell was about the size of a millstone. When he got closer, there was clear water inside and the fragrance came from the clear water. Heavens, we actually encountered such a great treasure. Seeing the eggshell, Doing could not help but exclaim. Even Lin Ling was overjoyed. Because that was the Nether Dragon Accompanying Liquid. It was brought by the small Nether Dragon when it had just hatched. Normally, this liquid was used for the growth of the little Nether Dragon. It was the essence of a dragon. Right now, the little Nether Dragon was nowhere to be found, but half of the liquid had not been eaten. This also meant that the situation was urgent, so the little Nether Dragon was forced to leave. Quick, take out the jade bottle. Lin Ling panicked. He and Doing quickly and carefully put away the Nether Dragon Accompanying Liquid. These treasures could not only increase cultivation, but also increase talent, rank power, soul power, and so on. It was one of the rarer treasures in 9 provinces that could increase all aspects. Therefore, even though there was still some left in the eggshell, Doing could not bear to waste it. He picked up the eggshell and licked it without caring about his image. Of course, how could Lin Ling let him take advantage of it? Therefore he also snatched it. Licking the fragrant liquid, Lin Ling could clearly feel that his physical strength was crazily increasing. His godly demon body and dragon bones were also transforming. A warm current flowed through Lin Ling's body, making Lin Ling feel that he had turned into a dragon. His physical strength had increased to 400 world power. When he looked again, all he saw were afterimages. He had actually successfully advanced to another realm. His entire person seemed to be drunk. With a red face, he began to laugh loudly. Lin Ling also allowed his physical body to transform. Unfortunately, the eggshell had turned into a fossil. Otherwise, it would be a rare treasure. Then, he went to the pile of treasures at the side and hurriedly searched. Most of these treasures had lost their spiritual energy. However, among them, Lin Ling finally saw a broken sword. Although this broken sword was smaller than the one he saw in Jianghu, it was enough to make Lin Ling excited for a long time. At the same time, the scabbard behind him also floated up and began to absorb the broken sword. This broken sword? Do Afterimage stared at the broken sword, secretly shocked. From the broken sword, he sensed a killing intent that was even more terrifying than his own. Could it be that before this sword was complete, it was the dragon-slaying sword? The nether dragon died to this sword? One had to know that in the era of gods, there had been the dragon-slaying clan. However, for some reason this clan had completely disappeared. In fact, when Lin Ling killed Brocade Dust Saint last time, the Sunshine Ice Heaven Furnace in his hand was left behind by the dragon-slaying clan. Later, Lin Ling added it to the Spirit State's divine array to strengthen the Een Dragon's soul. That was why the Een Dragon's soul was able to block the attack of the martial ancestor. Do Afterimage continued to make wild guesses. In the end, he realized that Lin Ling's scabbard was extremely extraordinary. There's a dragon egg here? At this moment, a cry of surprise suddenly sounded. At the entrance of the cave, a figure rushed in like a madman. He looked around and then charged towards the dragon egg. However, the dragon egg was already empty. This caused the person to sigh softly. Then he said angrily, "What kind of treasure did you two obtain here?" This person's voice carried a thick heavenly might, as if a god emperor had arrived. In fact, he was indeed a god emperor. He was the #1 god emperor in Jianghu, the Sky Emperor. However, when the Sky Emperor entered, Lin Ling and Brocade Dust Saint had already seen him. However, Lin Ling was waiting for the scabbard to be refined, so he did not pay attention to him. "What kind of treasure did you obtain? Hand it over." The Sky Emperor was even more furious. He was the #1 person in Jianghu. When had he ever been ignored like this? Although there were countless experts in this trip to the ancient Forbidden Forest, not many people could make him wary. Moreover, the two people in front of him were definitely not them. His gaze finally landed on Do Afterimage. However, he shook his head. He did not know this person. Then he looked at Lin Ling. His expression instantly became interesting. His mouth opened wide. It was as if he was a duck that had been grabbed by the neck. The demonic sun. The Sky Emperor let out a sharp cry. His expression was as if he had seen a ghost. Even if the young man in front of him turned into ashes, he would definitely recognize him. Back then, in the great world's Jiang family, the demonic sun had destroyed the Jiang family right in front of him. He even held his neck in his hand and shocked the entire Jianghu. At that time, he was like a child in front of the boat of gods. He could not resist at all. After that, he found out that this young man was the new realm emperor of Spirit State. He even used the great array of gods to almost destroy the gods of Heaven Court. At that time, the Sky Emperor knew that he had offended a terrifying existence. He was probably on par with the monster young master. Where is this? Seems like I've come to the wrong place. My battlefield is outside. Damn it, I knew that the two Dao masters were lying to me. There's no treasure in this cave. There's not even a shadow of a person. I'd better go back and continue fighting. Suppressing his shock, the Sky Emperor suddenly laughed and pretended that he did not see Lin Ling and Brocade Dust Saint. After laughing, he turned around and left. "Old Do, kill him." However, just as he moved, a cold voice came from behind him. Cold sweat dripped down his forehead. "Run." That was the only thought in his mind. He shouted anxiously. "Son of demon, I didn't see you. Do you think we're idiots?" How could Lin Ling not know what the Sky Emperor was thinking? He pretended that he did not see them and left safely. However, now that they had obtained a treasure, if the Sky Emperor were to spread the news, the experts outside would all target them. Explode. The Sky Emperor knew that if he did not run now, he would not be able to escape. His arms suddenly expanded like the claws of a demon god and clawed at Do Kening. Of course, although he was in the saint level, he was still much weaker than Do Kening. Do Kenying's dagger was an assassin's dagger. With a slash, even a saint would fall. Break. Fortunately, the Sky Emperor had already planned to retreat. His huge arm was instantly severed like a lizard's tail. Countless scales burst out and shot into the cave, melting the walls of the cave. Using this opportunity, he rushed out of the cave. Damn it! Do Qining did not expect his opponent to be so cunning. He shouted angrily and wanted to chase after him. Stop chasing, we can't stay here for long. Leave now. Chapter 3187. Against young Master Yao. Outside the cave, the terrifying battle was getting more and more intense. What was terrifying was that the cultivators from the Great Celestial Mansion and the Cloud Emperor were all injured. In the sky there was a giant phantom of a demon, and under that phantom there was an endless amount of mud. It was the realm-devouring beast. A demonic youth stood there, as if the demon emperor had descended. He was young Master Yao. He had joined forces with the ancient demon tribe and defeated the elites from the Great Celestial Mansion. Seeing this, Lin Ling sucked in a breath of cold air and left without a word. However, the Sky Emperor was lucky enough to escape. How could he let Lin Ling and the Cloud Emperor escape? Stop fighting, those two have snatched the most precious treasure. The Celestial Emperor let out a loud shout, causing both sides to stop fighting. Sky Emperor, what do you mean? In the sky, the Cloud Emperor frowned and asked. We've been tricked. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Those two have taken the nether dragon liquid, which is even more precious than the nether dragon's bones. I saw it with my own eyes when I entered the cave. Sky Emperor. The Sky Emperor shouted again. His words made everyone's expression change and they were fuming with anger. They had been fighting with their lives on the line, but someone else had stolen an even more precious treasure right under their noses. One had to know that although the nether dragon's bones were precious, the nether dragon liquid was the real treasure. This was because whether it was a dragon or other demon beasts, they would definitely leave their life's essence to the next generation before passing it on to the next generation. The nether dragon liquid was the essence of the nether dragon. In fact, it wasn't just dragons. It was the same for humans. It's them. Sky Emperor. At this moment, the Sky Emperor pointed to the ground, and everyone's eyes fell on Lin Ling and the Cloud Emperor. Damn it. Sky Emperor. Although Lin Ling had sensed this earlier, he was still so angry that he gritted his teeth. He's the one we invited? Sky Emperor. In the sky, the young Master Yao also stared at Lin Ling. Young Master Yao, they seem to be from the Purple Cloud Sword sect. An old man at the side immediately said. Although there were many people who had joined their plan, in fact, this elder knew everyone's background. They're not from the Purple Cloud Sword sect. We've been tricked. The young demon lord's eyes emitted a strange green light as he shot it at Lin Ling. Hand over the accompanying fluid and I will spare your lives. His cold voice immediately spread throughout the sky of the forbidden forest. Everyone's eyes were also extremely cold. They knew that those two were dead for sure. After offending the young demon lord, even gods would fall. They had all witnessed young Master Yao's strength before. He was a godlike genius who could suppress a saint. How could those two cockroaches be a match for him? Old Do, get ready to run. At this moment, Lin Ling also knew that the strongest battle had arrived. However, his eyes were surging with battle intent. In fact, he was looking forward to seeing this powerful genius of the ancient demon race. In the past, Li Xiaoyao had traveled all over the 9 prefectures and defeated all the races. He was a genius with 100 different bloodlines and was a descendant of the gods. He had already developed a proud and arrogant personality. Li Xiaoyao didn't believe that a rising star like young Monster Lord could be that strong. Rumble. As Do Afterimage ran with Lin Ling also activated the powerful space-time Divine Steel. The huge Divine Steel fell from the sky. It looked like a 5th-grade desolate body, but in fact, it had the aura of an ultimate desolate body. Alasaka Menginan. Seeing this, young demon lord seemed to be honing something. His expression was holy and solemn. The demon god phantom behind him grew larger. A huge demon claw reached towards the sky and blocked the space-time Divine Steel's fall. Among the half-sages, you are one of the strongest I have ever seen. Young demon lord also said solemnly. His words made people gasp. This was because they thought that those two were passers-by. Among the half-sages, you are also one of the strongest I have ever seen. Almost at the same time, Lin Ling also said coldly. His arrogance did not diminish. Hearing this, young demon lord laughed. His eyebrows moved and the ground began to turn black. In front of Lin Ling, a huge mouth appeared. The realm-devouring beast had arrived. Young master. Do Afterimage immediately cried out in alarm. No need to panic. You cannot slow down. Lin Ling quickly shouted. Lightning flashed in his eyes as the illusion god True Inheritance burst out. 1,000 transformations. One of the 100 bloodlines, the illusion god True Inheritance, had arrived. In the ancient mountain range, countless Lin Ling and Do afterimages appeared. They ran in all directions, making it impossible to tell which was real and which was fake. What kind of technique is this guy using? 1,000 transformations? Could he be the successor of the illusion god? The experts in the distance all cried out in alarm. Was this still a passerby? Damn, this was simply a ferocious person. Rumble. The black realm swallowing beast began to devour the countless phantoms, making people extremely nervous. Those two should be dead. However, in the next moment, in another direction, two figures rushed out and ran forward crazily. They had escaped. At this moment, even young Demon Lord's expression changed drastically. Who was young Demon Lord? He was one of the 9 states' 10 evils, the son of 10,000 demons of the ancient demon race. Those who fought him were all descendants of gods or the strongest in the 9 states. But now, a nameless brat had actually blocked his attack. It is impolite not to reciprocate. At this moment, Lin Ling's cold laughter rang out again. He was being carried by Do afterimage, but a 5-meter-long bone bow appeared in his hand. Above his head, the dragon god Phantom roared. And this was a real dragon. Compared to young Demon Lord's demon god, it was like a dragon god clashing with a demon god. Lin Ling's expression was extremely sacred. The dragon bone in his body was roaring. After swallowing the nether dragon companion liquid, he seemed to have transformed into a small dragon. Most importantly, this was a small dragon of the nether dragon level. Young master. Young master. Even Do afterimage cried out in alarm, feeling as if he was carrying a dragon from the era of gods. Heavenly dragon protection. Good karma increases day by day. Gather holy karma. Bodhi will not retreat. Gods and ghosts assist. Peaceful dreams. Lin Ling muttered to himself as the bow in his hand shot out. The 3 arrows intertwined like a dragon's roar. He didn't use the True Inheritance Dark Sword, because his goal was to leave. If he used the True Inheritance Dark Sword, he wouldn't be able to take it back. What was terrifying was that after the 3 arrows intertwined, they turned into a huge dragon god and swept towards young Demon Lord. 8 divine abilities of the dragon race. Seeing this, young Demon Lord's eyes were filled with shock. He never thought that the youth hidden in his faction would be so strong. All these techniques were left behind from the era of gods. Illusion god True Inheritance, 8 divine abilities of the dragon race. What the hell was this brat? He opened his hands and muttered with a serious expression, Toka and I. Golden blood began to flow out of his forehead. This blood turned into strange patterns, causing his body to grow larger. His hair also grew longer and he was actually transforming into a demon god. A demon god was a god with the talent of 10,000 demons. Therefore he also became a monster. He had the horns of the ox demon, the fangs of the tiger demon, the wings of the eagle demon, the arms of the ape demon, and so on. His arm immediately clawed out fiercely, mixed with the terrifying power of rank. Rumble. Chapter 3188. A breakthrough in strength. Could that guy be from the dragon race? Everyone was shocked, especially the Heavenly Emperor. Especially experts like the Heavenly Emperor, they never thought that the brat's methods would be so terrifying. Boom. However, the young beast master was indeed a young beast master. His cultivation level was higher than Lin Ling's, so he managed to block the Calamity Destroyer bow with a roar. 3 arrows also appeared in his huge palm, and his expression was incomparably cold. In fact, he had underestimated Lin Ling from the start, which led to this scene. His eerie green eyes immediately looked into the distance. However, at this moment, a terrifying demonic aura filled the sky, and a huge, headless elder appeared. His long robe fluttered, and he held a demonic sword in his hand. He looked like he was seeking defeat alone. Where is my head? That old voice seemed to be able to shake the world. That sword was like the era of the gods. Bloody light bloomed. Oh no! The young beast master's expression changed. He opened his hands and countless demons rushed out from his body. There were demon eagles, horse demons, and so on. His body seemed to be hiding endless demons. These demons were like death warriors. They rushed forward and used their strong bodies to block that sword. Whoosh. However, wherever the sword passed, thousands of lives were annihilated. Furthermore, the sword had slashed across young Master Yao's arm, causing his giant ape arm to bleed profusely. He caressed his injured arm and looked at the thousands of demons that had been sliced in half. His expression was abnormally ugly. When he looked at Lin Ling and the Heavenly Emperor again, they had already disappeared into the distance. How terrifying. Where did that person come from? Good and evil combined in one body. He has the heavenly dragon protecting him and the aura of righteousness. He has the demonic sword and the demonic aura. He must be a new genius born in the 9 states. The people around them were trembling. Those two were so cunning. They were clearly so strong, but they pretended to be pigs to eat tigers. The mantis stalked the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Who is that person? The young beast master could not help but ask in a low voice. The son of the devil. Not long after, a serious voice floated out. It was the Heavenly Emperor. His words were like a stone that caused 1,000 ripples. The son of the devil, a figure in the news recently. Rumor had it that he had almost killed the gods. It's him. The young demon master was stunned. Suddenly, an evil smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. If it's him, then my loss is justified. Among the half-saints of the 9 prefectures, who else can escape from me? He had obviously heard of the son of devil's name, but it was just a rumor. He didn't believe it before, but after seeing it today he believed it a little. He even had a feeling that the son of demon hadn't used his full strength yet. Everyone was shocked when they heard young Master Yao's words. Young Master Yao seemed to treat the son of devil as an expert of the same level. This kind of evaluation could be said to be universally shocking. At this moment, Duing was carrying Lin Ling as he madly ran. Lin Ling's face was extremely pale. Previously, it could be said that he had used all his trump cards. Young Master, you actually blocked young Master Yao's attack. Do Afterimage's heart was still in shock. He naturally knew what kind of person the young demon lord was. This was an outstanding genius of the 9 prefectures. And although Lin Ling was also very powerful, he clearly hadn't reached such heights. However, the result was that Lin Ling was actually only slightly weaker than Yao Xiao. He has underestimated his opponent. Moreover, his talent is really terrifying. He has the ultimate desolate physique, which can gather thousands of demons into one body. In addition to his cultivation level, the realm-devouring beast and so on, if we were to fight force with force, I definitely wouldn't be his match. Lin Ling wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said with a smile. Although he wasn't young Master Yao's match, he had won this battle. Most importantly, he was only at the 3rd stage of the half-saint realm, while young Master Yao was at the later stage of the half-saint realm. Therefore he would definitely be at a disadvantage. If his cultivation level increased again, then the gap between him and young Master Yao would become smaller and smaller. Moreover, Do Afterimage also thought so. Old Do, find a quiet place. I'm about to break through. Suddenly Lin Ling let out an anxious voice. Another breakthrough? Hearing this, Do Afterimage was shocked. One had to know that when Lin Ling left the spirit state he had just broken through. Now he had broken through again. This cultivation speed was too monstrous. In a dense forest, a bottomless hole was dug out by Lin Ling. Then he jumped down. Do Afterimage hit at the side of the hole and sealed the entire hole. In the hole, Lin Ling sat cross-legged, and the surface of his body was filled with rolling realm essence. The nether dragon accompanying liquid that he had devoured earlier had all been refined. The reason was because of the all-out battle with young Master Yao. That battle had used up all the realm essence in his 4 dantians. It was because of this that his methods were so sharp. This breakthrough will definitely require a lot of treasures. Fortunately, I've prepared a lot this time. Lin Ling had a confident smile on his face. He took out all the treasures he had obtained from the Purple Cloud Sword sect and continued to refine them. A huge amount of spiritual qi instantly filled Lin Ling's dantian. His 4 dantians, which were originally dry, were now nourished like bamboo shoots after a rain. Godly demon body, flame dantian, dragon dantian, and thunder dantian. His 4 dantians were also becoming larger and larger. At the same time, Lin Ling reluctantly took out the accompanying liquid and carefully licked it a few times. Sensing the rich dragon essence, little Kunlun swam over like a little snake. It raised its little seedling and looked at Lin Ling in an extremely obedient manner. This made Lin Ling smile. He picked up the jade bottle and gently poured some accompanying liquid into little Kunlun. You little fellow. After dotingly stroking little Kunlun's seedling, Lin Ling began to cultivate again. With the addition of the nether dragon accompanying liquid, Lin Ling sensed that his soul force and physical strength were slowly increasing. His soul power was gradually reaching the 8,000 level. As his soul force increased, Lin Ling's illusion god true inheritance's boundary had stabilized. After 100 moves, the 1,000 transformations had increased in range, reaching several thousand miles. Moreover, the number of illusions he could create had also increased, and his defense had also increased. Although the illusions in the past could not be seen through, they were somewhat rigid. Now, the illusions seemed to have gained intelligence and each of them could perform different actions. I cultivate essence, chi and spirit. My soul force has always been the strongest. Currently, my cultivation realm and physical strength are the weakest. Otherwise, I would have been able to form a fifth Dantian. Lin Ling secretly assessed. According to his estimation, if he reached the late stage of the half-saint realm, he might be able to form a fifth Dantian. At that time he would be one step closer to Li Xiaoyao's strength. This was because Li Xiaoyao was a martial ancestor expert in the past. Then Lin Ling pushed the remaining power of the accompanying liquid toward the dragon bones. The accompanying liquid was the dragon essence. Using it on the dragon bones would definitely have a better effect. Ka. Instantly, Lin Ling's bones turned pitch black and emitted the majesty of a dragon. At this moment, a transparent membrane appeared on the surface of his body like an eggshell. It made him look like a small dragon, a true dragon of the dragon clan. Chapter 3189. What a terrifying half-saint tribulation. As for his strength, it had reached the terrifying limit of 500 world forces. His strength and defense had greatly increased. His speed had reached 70 world forces speed. Sensing the changes in his body, Lin Ling was ecstatic. As expected of the nether dragon-associated liquid. However, this was not the end of the pleasant surprise. At this moment, tribulation clouds were rolling in the sky above the ancient forbidden forest. It was as if the gods were angry. This was the arrival of the half-saint tribulation. One had to know that stepping into the fourth layer of the half-saint realm from the third layer of the half-saint realm was a huge leap. The half-saint tribulation was even more terrifying than before. Young master is finally going to break through. On the ground, Do Kening had been staring in the direction of Lin Ling's seclusion. He could not help but smile. However, the rolling tribulation clouds in the sky made him feel the pressure. He had traveled all over the 9 prefectures and seen countless half-saint breakthroughs. However, this was the first time he had seen such a suppressed half-saint tribulation. Not far from where Lin Ling was breaking through, there were many 9 prefectures cultivators walking. After sensing the pressure in the sky, they were all stunned. Half-saint realm? How daring. He dares to break through in the ancient forbidden forest. Haha, not everyone can easily break through. Therefore no one would miss the opportunity to break through. That half-saint realm junior is naturally the same. However, it's hard to say whether he can break through the half-saint tribulation because the demonic beasts in the ancient forbidden forest will definitely stop him. Those experts said indifferently. There were actually many sage realm experts. I estimate that there will only be 5 lightning tribulations. An old man said confidently. Rumble. As soon as he finished speaking, the half-saint tribulation came crashing down and destroyed everything. That imposing aura directly shocked all the experts. They'd never seen such a terrifying tribulation of a half-saint. Moreover, it was not over. As soon as the first lightning tribulations came crashing down, the second and third lightning tribulations came crashing down. Someone exclaimed. 2 lightning tribulations at the same time? It was obviously the first time they had seen such a half-saint tribulation. However, it was still not over. After the 2 lightning tribulations came crashing down, 3 lightning tribulations came crashing down. Fuck. What kind of half-saint tribulation is this? This time everyone was shocked. The cultivators who were originally hurrying along stopped in their tracks as if they had seen a miracle. Rumble. Not long after, the earth started to shake, and the nearby magical beasts all rushed over. It was like a sea of magical beasts. These magical beasts had clearly sensed that a martial artist was breaking through, and after a martial artist broke through, this was clearly disadvantageous to the magical beasts. Therefore these demonic beasts were blocking cultivators. This was also a rule that had been left behind in the ancient forbidden forest for many years. Bang 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 bang. However, those magical beasts had just approached when tribulation lightning smashed down from the sky. This time it was 4 bolts of tribulation lightning. At the moment of impact, tens of thousands of demonic beasts were overturned, and blood flowed like a river in the vicinity. In the end, even the magical beasts didn't dare to approach the forbidden lightning pool. They knew that it was impossible to interrupt that person's breakthrough. The half-saint tribulation's tribulation. But as the martial artists in the distance saw 4 bolts of tribulation thunder descend, all of them were numb. How was this a half-saint realm breakthrough? It was almost comparable to a sage realm breakthrough. Even Du Kening was so shocked that his mouth was trembling. If this person succeeds in breaking through, his battle prowess would definitely be able to threaten a Sage Realm cultivator. I wonder if this person is an old monster or a rising star. Yes, if he is a rising star, that would be terrifying. Look, it's not over yet. 5 lightning tribulations. This is the final tribulation. Everyone turned to look at the sky. Dark clouds loomed over them. It was extremely terrifying. The final tribulation had arrived. At this moment, not only the demonic beasts, but even the cultivators around them were extremely nervous. Of course, they did not want that person to break through. This was because no one wanted to be above their heads. However, due to their status, they could not make a move. After all, many of them were sect leaders. They could not bring themselves to attack a half-saint realm cultivator. How cruel. One person ascends to the heavens, leaving no one alive? For the peace of the 9 states, we must capture this person. However, even though the elders could not make a move, it did not mean that their disciples could not. Someone walked out coldly. Following that, more and more people spoke out one after another. These people were all at the half-saint realm, so they were naturally jealous of that half-saint realm cultivator who was undergoing the tribulation. Of course, they were not stupid. They did not make a move for now because they intended to interrupt that person's breakthrough at the most critical moment. Rumble. The 5 lightning tribulations continued to smash down and actually formed a huge 5 lightning lotus on the ground. The soil on the ground was completely overturned, and a huge eggshell was gradually revealed. However, the eggshell was trembling at this moment. It was enveloped by the 5 lightning lotus and seemed as if it would be turned into ashes at any moment. Good. Someone immediately smiled excitedly. If one failed to overcome such a terrifying tribulation, then it wouldn't be as simple as chi deviation. It was even possible that one's soul would be destroyed. Moreover, when they saw that the lightning in the surroundings was weakening and had all gathered on the 5 lightning lotus, those restless people finally made a move. They leaped forward and attacked the 5 lightning lotus with all their strength. How dare you! At this moment, Du Kanying roared, transformed into a shadow and shot forward. Never had he imagined that someone would suddenly launch a surprise attack. Earlier, his gaze had locked onto the devil beasts in the surroundings, so he'd overlooked these despicable people. Senior, this person's killing intent is too dense. If we don't stop him, he'll definitely become a demon of the 9 states. Exactly. Senior, please look at the devil beasts that died under the tribulation lightning. These devil beasts are innocent. Even though Du Kanying had made a move, those people who'd launched a surprise attack still spoke with a strong sense of righteousness. Such words were undoubtedly very sarcastic. How many devil beasts had died at their hands when they'd ventured into the forbidden forest? Shut up. Du Kanying was instantly furious. How could he believe these people? However, someone had gotten too close to the 5 lightning lotus and was directly wrapped by the lightning and electrocuted to death. Actually, that person had wanted to see if he could obtain some treasures, so he'd approached the 5 lightning lotus. However, he'd lost his life in the end instead of obtaining any treasures. Senior, look. Another innocent person has died. Those half-saints who'd attacked spoke furiously when they saw this. It was like the 5 lightning lotus was brewing a demon, and they intended to enforce justice on behalf of the heavens. All of you get lost. Du Kanying didn't even bother to speak nonsense. His killing intent erupted, and every time a cold light flashed, a life would be reaped by him. How cruel. Everyone attacked the 5 lightning lotus. Don't get entangled with that, Senior. Master, help us. Sect Master, someone wants to kill us. The disciples of the various sects roared. Since things had come to this, they'd obviously thrown caution to the wind. This caused the eyes of the experts of the various sects to flicker. They wanted to attack Du Kanying. Rumble. Chapter 3190. In Yuer's whereabouts. Countless trees were also cut in half. The scene was extremely shocking. 90% of the half-step saints who had ambushed the 5 lightning lotus were dead. This caused the remaining people's expressions to change drastically. They never thought that the final lightning tribulation would be so terrifying. Crack, crack. At the same time, the sound of the eggshell cracking could be heard. This caused the nearby area to fall silent. Did he fail to break through? Someone said. Someone let out a low growl and his eyes turned red. So many of them had died. If that person did not fail to break through, they would not be able to accept it. Boom. Before the crowd could finish their thoughts, the huge eggshell completely exploded. Then it scattered on the ground like endless glass. At the same time, a slender figure with a bare upper body walked out with a large sword in his hand. He was dripping with blood. One could even see the remnants of lightning on his body. However, he was like an Azura demon king. With just one look, everyone's hearts trembled subconsciously. What a terrifying person. Right, we're going to the demon city. Let's go. The people who were still nearby immediately laughed dryly. Since they had failed to stop him, they definitely wanted to leave at this moment. Whoosh. However, just as they moved, a blood sword slashed at them, cutting through the sky. Those people's heads itched as if something had passed through them. Blood, I'm bleeding. What happened? Why do I see my own feet? Then a series of exclamations sounded because those people's heads had fallen to the ground. The most terrifying thing was that after falling to the ground, those people were still screaming. A moment later, they died in panic and pain. Senior, please spare us. There were 2 people who were lucky enough to survive. At this moment, they were so scared that they knelt down. There was only deep regret in their hearts. They thought that with their master around, even if they attacked, they would be safe and sound. However, they now realized that that was just wishful thinking. Sir, they are still immature. Please spare their lives. The sect leaders of the various sects also hurried over and looked at the Azura demon king with reverence. That was because they could feel a sense of fear from the latter's body. Young master has broken through 2 stages and reached the 5th layer of the half-saint realm. Do Kening looked at the topless young man in shock. They don't know any better, but don't tell me you don't know any better. The young man finally said in a cold voice, I'll give you a chance now. Kill them yourselves or else. Otherwise what? Hearing this, all the sect leaders' expressions changed. They wanted them to kill their own disciples? Otherwise you will die. The young man shouted coldly again. The word die caused the sect leaders of the various sects to tremble. Although this young man was only at the 5th level of the half-saint realm, the dense killing intent on his body gave them the feeling that even an early-stage saint realm expert wouldn't be a match for this young man. Master, don't. Hearing Lin Ling's words, the 2 kneeling people completely panicked. Sai, why did you have to interrupt other people's breakthroughs? The sins of heaven can be forgiven, but the sins we bring upon ourselves are the hardest to bear. The experts looked at each other and sighed. His words caused the faces of the 2 men to turn incomparably pale. Their master and their sects were going to sacrifice them. Because of the sneak attack earlier, their sects had chosen to acquiesce. However, now that they knew that this young man was not to be trifled with, they immediately became scapegoats. The experts from the various sects felt extremely bitter. How could they feel good about killing their own disciples with their own hands? This was also a great humiliation. However, what else could they do if they didn't kill them? They could only say that they shouldn't have held on to the thought of getting lucky and interrupting other people's breakthroughs. This was because this wasn't an ordinary half-saint realm expert. Don't blame us when you go to the netherworld. Finally, someone made a move and slapped the 2 men's heads. The sound of bones breaking immediately rang out. Naturally, the 2 men died with their eyes wide open. Only after they died did they realize that jealousy was the cause of death. Can we leave now? After killing their own disciples, those experts said dishearteningly. Leave your treasures behind and scram. However, the young man said indifferently. You. Hearing this, the experts' expressions changed. They had killed their own disciples with their own hands and had already suffered great humiliation. Yet, the young man still wanted them to hand over their treasures? Clang. The young man didn't waste his breath and raised his sword. The large sword was surging with demonic energy, and the demonic energy was practically about to materialize. I'll give it to you. With just a glance, they immediately lost the will to fight and handed over all their treasures one after another. The bitterness in their hearts grew even stronger. Since you're already very close to the demon metropolis, why don't you go there? That's the world of the top experts in the 9 prefectures. Moreover, precious treasures have been discovered there. The various powers in the 9 prefectures are also clashing with each other. There's the ancient demon clan, the heavenly court, the mansion of gods and demons, and even the land of eternal rest and the celestial temple. I heard that the saintess of the celestial temple seized a precious treasure and is now being besieged by various experts. One of the old men said gloomily. He seemed to be reminding Lin Ling, but in fact he wanted to send him to his death. This was killing with a borrowed knife. Of course, even though he said that, he didn't hold much hope because unless this young man was an idiot, who would dare to go against the big shots of the 9 prefectures? Say that again. However, Lin Ling's pupils constricted. His words scared the old man and he quickly said, Over there, the great powers of the 9 prefectures are clashing. You're saying that the saintess of the celestial temple is being besieged by various experts? Lin Ling's voice became more and more anxious. Well, I've only heard about this because the demon metropolis has 6 sacred objects left behind by the demon emperor. One of them was seized by the saintess of the celestial temple. Moreover, that sacred object seems to be extremely precious, so all the experts are targeting the celestial temple. However, the celestial temple is now running for its life and can't stop the big shots from all sides. The saintess is also doomed. I've heard that the saintess is extremely beautiful. With your strength, the treasure and the beauty should belong to you. The old man said nervously, but his eyes quietly flickered with coldness. He was obviously trying to lure Lin Ling to his death. However, just as he finished speaking, Lin Ling killed him with a slash. Moreover, he glanced at the afterimage and immediately advanced. Obviously, how could Lin Ling not know his intentions? I'll treat people how they treat me. Lin Ling never showed mercy to those who wanted to harm him. Lin Ling. Seeing Lin Ling and the old man disappear, the people from various sects were all stunned. Then they stared at the dead old man and sighed softly. Their disciple died because of jealousy, and this old man secretly sowed discord because of his disciple's death. In the end, he also died. It could only be said that they had provoked someone who couldn't be underestimated. Young master, are we going to save the saintess of the celestial temple? At this moment, Doing was following Lin Ling. He noticed that Lin Ling's expression was extremely serious. Chapter 3191. Senior sister, I'm here. Has appeared and is in danger. No matter what, I have to save her. Lin Ling spoke word by word as he stared ahead. In the dense forest, it was as though he could see a woman who had disappeared for a long time. In the ancient Yen sect, and Yuer was the first person to help Lin Ling. In the Heaven Mystics Kingdom, during the Clan's calamity, Lin Ling was also the first person to help Yuer. Their hearts and bodies were already tightly bound together. It was like this in this life and the next life. However, that saint lady obtained a precious treasure, which attracted the attention of various elders. If young master went to help her, I'm afraid things would be very troublesome. Furthermore, the demon young master is definitely looking for young master and the heaven court. In addition, young master told me previously that he met someone who controlled the dead souls in the Green Prefecture. That was the resting place of the 9 prefectures Vicious 10 and had the inheritance of the Netherworld Realm's 10 Netherworld Devils. Young master had killed one of their people, and they will definitely notice young master and ultimately harm young master. The most important thing is that in Yuer that young master mentioned. Although she saw young master previously, she didn't even recognize young master. I'm afraid she will also harm young master. Do Kening continued to speak because his mission was to protect Lin Ling. No matter what kind of storm or what kind of experts from the 9 prefectures, I will save Yuer until death. However, Lin Ling's eyes were still resolute, and his words made Do Kening sigh. After knowing Lin Ling, he knew that Lin Ling was a prodigy with superior talents and temperament. However, Lin Ling had a huge flaw, which was that he valued relationships. Of course, from a certain point of view, this was also an advantage. As they advanced, a huge ancient capital appeared in the haziness. The ancient capital seemed to be hidden in the darkness, and from afar, it looked like a giant demon god lying on the ground. Legend has it that it was left behind by an ancient demon emperor. There was also a sacred item of the demon race in the demon metropolis. The demon metropolis was huge. At this moment, the quiet city was filled with experts from all over. These experts had followed the big shots of the 9 prefectures here to search for treasures in the ancient capital. And in the direction of the eastern city, a large number of martial artists were besieging a tall tower. One had to admit that everything in the eternal forbidden forest was very mysterious. As one of the most mysterious places in the forest, the demon metropolis was no exception. The power of a saint was actually unable to overturn this city. As a result, the experts from all sides besieged the tower. They could only kill their way through one step at a time. Everyone, let's work harder and get the sacred object. The godly bodyguard mansion will reward you handsomely. This holy object was left behind by our heavenly court. It was actually snatched away by the witch from the Immortal Temple. We must take back this holy object. Right now, Immortal Temple is facing off against Divine Weapon Manor, Ancient Fiend Race, and the land of Eternal Heroic Spirits experts. That witch doesn't have anyone to help her. She won't be able to escape even if she grew wings. Everyone unleashed their ultimate techniques and attacked the high tower. The tower began to sway, but it didn't fall. The winding staircase leading to the high tower was also packed with people at this moment. Many people were filled with anticipation for the Fiend Emperor's holy object. And at the back, more and more experts joined the battle. At this moment, on top of the high tower, a woman was standing by the window. Her cold and emotionless eyes were looking at the bottom of the high tower. This woman was very beautiful. She was dressed in a white dress and looked like a fairy whose white clothes were whiter than snow. However, she was too cold. She gave people the feeling that they could only look at her from afar and could not profane her. And there was a swastika mark between her eyebrows. It added a hint of holiness to her otherworldly aura. She was expressionless, but she was worried because she knew that the Immortal Temple's immortal monks were all blocked by the experts. The ones who attacked were also the 9 provinces' 10 evils. Therefore, those immortal monks couldn't rush over in time. And when she was snatching the holy object, she was also seriously injured. Otherwise, she wouldn't have let those ants besiege her. Her jade-white palm was holding an object tightly. Although she didn't know what the Fiend Emperor's holy object was, she knew that it was a treasure that Immortal Temple had to seize. For this, she didn't hesitate to sacrifice her life. "Is no one coming?" She let out a cold voice. She gathered the power in her body and prepared to fight to the death. "Senior sister, I'm coming." But at this moment, a roar that sounded like a dragon's roar sounded from afar. It even brought up layers of sand as it directly charged into the fiend metropolis. That voice made the woman in white's heart tremble for some reason. That voice was very familiar, as if she had heard it somewhere before. But when she thought about it carefully, she didn't know this person in her life. She only remembered that she grew up in Immortal Temple. She was a saintess since she was young and had sacrificed everything for Immortal Temple. Rumble. The rumbling in front of her became even more intense. A bare-chested youth holding a large sword swept over like a fierce dragon. This unforeseen event naturally caught the attention of the powerhouses who were besieging the tower. "Brat, everything has a first-come first-serve. If you want to seize the holy object, you have to line up." Behind the winding steps, a tall and sturdy man shouted coldly. He actually thought that the person who came was also a treasure snatcher. Hearing this, the face of the woman in white on top of the high tower turned cold. It turned out that another person had come to steal the treasure. But at this moment, a cold voice sounded. A sword that seemed like the era of gods had arrived. Whoosh! In front of the steps, a large number of warriors were killed by the sword. Blood spewed out as heads flew. "Brat, what are you doing? Are you violating the agreement? You actually attacked your own people." The experts who were attacking the tower were all enraged. They had clearly reached an agreement long ago. They would first seize the holy object and then fight among themselves, because if they didn't get the holy object and the experts from Immortal Temple arrived, everything would be for naught. That was why they were united. But now, someone had taken the initiative to violate the agreement. "Fuck you." Lin Ling, who came from afar, didn't say anything and directly shouted coldly. Not only did his words make the experts furious, but it also made Du Aftershadow's expression change drastically. Young Master's words were so shocking that they wouldn't stop until they died. That was because he could clearly see that there were many experts here. There were half-saints and saints, and there were even a few who were not weaker than him. But the young master was only one person. How was it possible for him to kill his way through the layers of slaughter? The young master is indeed a real man. He's angry for a woman. Then, when he saw Lin Ling charging forward fearlessly, he couldn't help but secretly admire him. Whose disciple is this? Are you tired of living? At this moment, another sage shouted angrily. "Kill him." More people were ready to move. In their opinion, it was simply a fool's dream for one person to fight all of them. Sword come. However, Lin Ling still didn't retreat. He held the Tyrant Song sword tightly. He looked at the high tower and vaguely saw Yuer. After disappearing for so many years, he finally found her. How could he retreat? Whoosh! The blood sword slashed out. The 60% demonic sword and the fusion of the 4 Danshians turned into a sharp sword. Rumble. That sword cut the weapons in the hands of countless experts. That sword cut off the heads of countless experts. That sword cut through a large number of powerful martial arts. Chapter 3192. Against a group of heroes. This sword shocked the world. One had to know that there was a barrier around the tower. Ordinary attacks couldn't even cause dirt to rise, let alone leave a mark. But now, a sword mark had appeared. This person isn't an ordinary 5th-layer half-saint. Exclamation point. A saint cried out in alarm. In fact, there was no need for him to say anything because behind the stairs, a large number of people had already died. If they weren't beheaded, then their bodies were split in two. The sharpness of this sword was unparalleled. It was truly terrifying. "Little friend, why don't you join us?" Exclamation point. Another expert spoke out. He knew that it was better to be friends with such a powerful expert than to be enemies. Damn you, today I'm here to save the Saintess! Exclamation point. Unexpectedly, not only did Lin Ling refuse, he even slashed out with his sword. This sword was like a stone that stirred up 1,000 ripples. This meant that Lin Ling was an enemy. Perhaps he was someone invited by the Immortal Temple. Instantly, the way everyone looked at Lin Ling changed. If they were angry at the beginning, then now they were surging with killing intent. If they didn't kill Lin Ling, they wouldn't be able to snatch the treasure from the Saintess of the Immortal Temple. A fierce battle erupted like a storm in the demon metropolis. Everyone, this person isn't on our side. I think there's no need to be merciful. An old man in a monk's robe took the lead to speak. This person looked benevolent and had the demeanor of an immortal. However, on his shoulders, there was a faint shadow of 2 heads. This shadow was exactly the same as the old man's. He was called Demonic Monk Troubled Times. According to legend, he was born as triplets. However, when the 3 brothers were born, they were in a cave without any food. In order to survive, Demonic Monk Troubled Times ate his 2 brothers alive. In the end, he caught the eye of Damo Dragon Fong and was accepted as a disciple. In the end, he became a demon whose name shook the 9 provinces. After he spoke, those famous figures in the 9 provinces nodded one after another. This old monk will go first. Demonic Monk Troubled Times was also the first to attack. He silently chanted, and a black light flew out from his neck. It was actually a string of Buddhist beads. However, if one looked carefully, that string of Buddhist beads was actually made from human hair. The Buddhist beads grew larger in the wind and emitted traces of chilliness as they suppressed Lin Ling. At this moment, Lin Ling stomped on the ground and shot forward with the speed of 70 worlds. He brandished the sword in his hand with an unstoppable sharpness. No half-saints could stop his sword. The fusion of his 4 dantians, in addition to the 60% completion of the demon sword step, was indeed terrifying. And at this time, the Buddhist beads enveloped Lin Ling in the air. Suddenly, a strange feeling appeared in Lin Ling's heart. It was as if he had been sucked into a wonderful world. No matter how he turned around, he would never be able to leave this world. He couldn't help but raise his head. He knew that a saint-level elite had made a move. It was clearly quite difficult for him to go against a saint realm expert with his current strength. At the same time, in the world of the Buddhist beads, endless Buddhist chants drifted about. The sky was filled with black skeletons, their hollow eyes staring at Lin Ling. All kinds of mysterious power also lingered around Lin Ling's body. This caused Lin Ling to immediately spit out a mouthful of blood. He knew that it was a soul attack. Although the opponent's soul wasn't stronger than his, with the help of the evil chi of the Buddhist beads, it had obviously greatly increased the attack power. This wave of suppression had undoubtedly weakened Lin Ling's momentum, but his eyes were still resolute. In his mind, the young girl from the ancient face sect appeared. If he didn't save her today, he wouldn't be human. Rumble. Lin Ling's soul rushed out crazily, causing countless Lin Lings to appear in the world of the Buddhist beads. It was difficult to distinguish between the real and the fake, and no method could see through them. What? The demonic monk's expression changed greatly. At their level, most of them had the magical ability Fiery Golden Eyes. They could easily see through ordinary doppelganger techniques, external incarnations, and other martial arts. But he couldn't see through the method used by the naked youth for a moment. Young Master East. Right at this moment, a roar resounded in Lin Ling's ears, and then a sharp cold light flickered in the void. One of the Buddhist beads cracked and finally exploded. This was a fatal attack from the afterimages. Lin Ling naturally seized the opportunity to control all the illusions and charge out of the gap. At this moment, all the big shots outside had indifferent expressions and disdainful smiles on the corners of their mouths. The demonic monk had made a move, and they believed that a mere half-saint realm junior was dead for sure. After all, the demonic monk was favored by Miao Prefecture's Emperor Miao, and he was once invited to Miao Prefecture to be a protector. This showed the demonic monk's strength. But at this moment, a rumble resounded, and the world of the Buddhist beads shattered, and a figure seemed to have escaped from the underworld. Next, a second one. A third one. Countless figures charged out one after another. This caused everyone to be shocked. How could this be possible? A half-saint realm junior actually escaped the attack of a saint realm expert? Die. The young man that charged out was like a god of death bathed in blood, and he would kill anyone who stood in his way. A sword that seemed to have come from the era of the gods surged with demonic energy, and a huge illusion of a headless old man descended to the ground. He held an ancient sword in his hand, and his robe fluttered. Although he was headless, he seemed to have seen through the universe and returned to the era of the gods. The sword slashed out from his hand. Swish. Demonic energy bloomed, and it was boundlessly sharp. The sword seemed to have formed the boundary between the 9 prefectures and the underworld. Ah! Save me. Stop him. A terrifying thing immediately occurred. After the line of life and death was slashed out, countless lives were killed, and then a large number of experts erupted with their ultimate techniques and formed powerful attacks to resist the line of life and death. However, the sword still pushed everyone back, and it caused their faces to be filled with terror. Who the hell is this guy? Swish. In the end, the thousands of cultivators that blocked the sword were all split in half, and the sword finally dissipated. The ground was covered in corpses and the city walls were dyed red. Even the sky seemed to be dyed red. Those who stand in my way die. However, the blood-soaked young man's steps were as firm as before as he shot towards the tower. He is the son of a demon. Everyone finally saw this young man, and some of them even recognized his origins. Son of a demon? That mysterious youth that stirred up the winds and clouds of the divine dreamland and nearly destroyed the gods? Even more people were shocked. So what if he is the son of a demon? If he says he will kill, he simply doesn't place our 9 prefectures in his eyes. In my opinion, his goal is the monster emperor's sacred object. Saving people is only an excuse. However, as everyone was surprised, a voice filled with monstrous killing intent echoed out. The one who spoke was a middle-aged man. He seemed angry, but his eyes were icy cold. And he was the Sky Province's celestial emperor. His words caused everyone to calm down. As they thought of the monster race's sacred object, their eyes turned red. This sacred object belonged to them. So what if he was the son of a demon? If he dared to steal the sacred object, he would be killed without mercy. Kill. Kill. Chapter 3193. Fight to the death. Celestial Emperor. Celestial Emperor. Looking at the sinister Celestial Emperor, Dou Qinying's expression was extremely ugly. Originally, when the name of the son of demon came out, people were a little afraid. However, the Celestial Emperor's provocation made people's greed sprout again. Then, he looked at the sky full of experts attacking, and his expression became incomparably solemn. One had to know that many of the experts attacking were not weaker than him. In addition, there were so many of them. How could Lin Ling block them? Young master, why don't you retreat first? Celestial Emperor. Dou Qinying said anxiously. I won't retreat. Celestial Emperor. However, Lin Ling refused directly. He gripped the sword in his hand a little tighter. He was already prepared to fight to the death. Rumble. The space-time divine steel began to descend, resisting the attacks of all the experts. The illusion god's true inheritance also erupted. Moreover, the step of the demon sword was once again ignited. Lin Ling erupting with all his strength. Heavenly Dragon Protector, good karma increases day by day. With the Emperor's help, Bodhi will not retreat. With the help of gods and ghosts, a night of peace and joy. After all the trump cards were used, the dragon god roared and shot out 3 arrows. Heavenly dragons intertwined as if Buddha had arrived. Rumble. Almost at the same time, the attacks of all the experts arrived and collided with Lin Ling's ultimate techniques. Buff, 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 buff. The powerful attacks made Lin Ling spit out 3 mouthfuls of blood. His body also made cracking sounds. His bones were constantly broken, but they were also rapidly recovering. His footsteps retreated 3 steps in succession. With every step he took back, blood continued to drip from the ground. And all his attacks were blocked, making it difficult for him to take another step forward. Haha, son of demon, you're dead today. Torture him to death. Ugly smiling faces were unreservedly displayed at this moment. Many people were even thinking that if they could kill the son of demon, they would be considered a little famous in the 9 provinces. Sai, son of demon, why? The 9 provinces' 10 Immortals temple is a demon temple. Why sacrifice your life for a woman? The demon monk of troubled times let out a long sigh. However, the Buddhist beads in his hand did not stop as he continued to suppress Lin Ling. Even though his words sounded like he was feeling sorry for Lin Ling, there was a cold light in his eyes. Boundless power suppressed Lin Ling, making it difficult for Lin Ling to move an inch. He even felt the smell of death. His blood continued to flow and his bones continued to shatter. His dantian was even more dried up. However, his fighting spirit did not diminish. Young master. At this moment, Dou Qinying's eyes were red. He wanted to help, but obviously there was nothing he could do. Senior sister, you, At this moment, Lin Ling raised his head and looked at the distant tower. He could vaguely see that familiar figure. She was Lin Ling's woman. If he couldn't even protect his own woman, then how could he talk about martial arts? How could he talk about revenge? How could he talk about being a man? Whoosh! The wind blew up Lin Ling's long hair and cut Lin Ling's face like knives. This made him feel for the first time that the wind was so cold and the sky was so oppressive. Lin Ling had not encountered such a moment of life and death for a very, very long time. Ants like you want to kill me? However, Lin Ling laughed. His expression was incomparably arrogant. At this moment he seemed to have thrown away everything. He only had one goal, and that was to save An Yuer. You think you can stop me with such methods? His arrogant voice drifted across the entire demon metropolis. After hearing this, everyone was enraged. This son of the devil was about to die, but he was still so arrogant. However, just as they were about to erupt, Lin Ling roared. Roar! A dragon rushed out from his body. A huge heavenly dragon soared into the sky with its head wide open, looking down at the world. Swept by the dragon's head, all the martial artists felt uncomfortable in their hearts. It was as if all the sins they had committed in their lives had all emerged at this moment and attacked their hearts of martial arts. Dragon Race's 8 divine abilities, Heavenly Dragon Protector. The demon monk of troubled times cried out. He never expected that this half-sage junior would actually possess all kinds of methods from the era of gods. The path of karma is forever eradicated, all tyrannical extermination. At almost the same time, the voice of divine might drifted out again. The dragon bow that had disappeared before also descended. The 4th arrow was shot out crazily. The 4th arrow. In the distance, all the afterimages immediately sucked in a cold breath. Lin Ling had shot out the 4th arrow of the great solar calamity bow. At the moment of life and death, he had actually shot out the 4th arrow. No, that should be the effect of the nether dragon companion fluid. After the 4th arrow was shot, the Buddhist Dharma was boundless. Together with the previous 3 arrows, it suppressed everyone. Everyone had a feeling of prostrating themselves in worship. Soon after, their hearts trembled fiercely. This was because with so many of them suppressing one person, that person could still resist. And while they were shocked, a powerful force pushed them back, making it difficult for them to resist. I'm here to bring you, home. Looking at Lin Ling again, he walked forward with steady steps. Although each step was extremely difficult, he never retreated. All sages attack. Young friend, you're the most stubborn madman I've ever seen. The other sages who had been watching the show finally decided to attack at this moment. And these sages also had admiration for Lin Ling. One person against the world. For his lover, for his confidant. This kind of martial artist was very stubborn. If he didn't die, he would definitely become a great person. Unfortunately, today's position was different. No matter what, they absolutely wouldn't let this youth live. Rumble. An even more terrifying power erupted, forming waves of light that finally converged like a huge blazing sun to drown Lin Ling. Young master. Seeing this scene, Do Afterimage's eyes quietly moistened. On top of the tower, the white-clothed woman's willowy brows were tightly knitted. In another direction of the demon metropolis, the stronger experts' faces slightly changed. Among them was the demon metropolis young master. At the same time, a woman stood in the south of the demon metropolis. She frowned and looked in the direction of the tower. She never thought that she would see Lin Ling here. This made the corner of her mouth curl up into a sneer. She was Long Yang. Without a doubt, today's demon metropolis was illuminated by the son of the devil. No one thought that they would be able to see such a great battle in the demon metropolis. I said before, I must bring you home. Facing the attacks of all the sages, Lin Ling's face was still without fear. His left hand stroked the huge black sword box behind him. The moment his palm touched it, his face revealed a nostalgic expression. Old friend, with my current strength, I can't activate you guys at all. However, today all of you will have to fight. Even if I have to waste endless life, I must bring her home. Finally, Lin Ling heavily slapped the sword box. Rumble. As if the divine sword was activated, the 18 true dark swords flew out, ancient and sharp. This was Li Xiaoyao's sword. It had reached the level of a divine weapon and was even more terrifying than a supreme weapon. This was an item used by the gods of the era of gods. Ordinary people couldn't activate a divine weapon at all unless they used endless life force. Even Lin Ling was no exception. Unless he reached the martial ancestor realm. Chapter 3194. Longyang had made her move. The power of the godly sword and the whistling sound in the sky caused the expressions of the various big shots to change. This was because they felt that the holy item of the demon metropolis was not as precious as the godly sword. What was the background of the son of the devil? Why did he have the sword of the gods? They never thought that while they were snatching the holy item, the real treasure was right in front of them. Boom, boom, boom. The 18 true swords intersected in the sky and spewed out an ancient power. They slashed continuously and actually broke the combined attack of the various experts. Boom, boom, boom. Even the demon metropolis was slashed apart. Although the ancient city walls were protected by a barrier, they could not withstand the sharpness of the sword. This caused mud and broken bricks to fall from the sky like rain. Looking at the mud rain, a determined figure was still moving forward. His footsteps were unsteady and his gaze was fixed on the tower. It was as if everything in the world had disappeared. Around the tower, the aura of death spread out. More than 80% of the experts had died. No one could withstand the attack of the godly sword. This person is crazy. On the other side of the demon metropolis, the young demon lord muttered to himself. Because he was very clear that the price to control a treasure that exceeded his own strength would be huge. The son of the devil was using his own life to control the sword of the gods. And all for a woman. The footsteps continued to sound. Although it was weak, it was like thunder in the hearts of the crowd. They did not dare to move. Even though they saw the sword of the gods return to the black sword case, even though they knew that the son of the devil might not be able to use the sword of the gods again, they still did not dare to act rashly. They could only watch as the bloodied and pale man walked up the winding stairs step by step. At this moment, there was only reverence in their hearts. At the top of the tower, the woman in white stood there quietly. However, her eyebrows were tightly knitted. Clearly, her emotions were rippling. She had never thought that there would be a day when a man would kill everyone in the world and not hesitate to give up his life for her. Who was this man? After an unknown period of time, the sound of footsteps came from the highest room. Moreover, a weak figure walked in with difficulty. However, when he saw the woman in white, Lin Ling smiled. His smile was extremely radiant. That smile was very clean and pure, as if the big brother next door had arrived, giving the white-clothed woman a sense of protection. I'm here to take you home. Lin Ling's soft voice drifted out of his mouth, but after he finished speaking, blood continued to flow out from the corner of his mouth. For some reason, this scene caused the white-clothed woman's heart to ache. However, she didn't know this man at all. You don't come over. The white-clothed woman frowned and finally spoke. I'm here to take you home. Unfortunately, Lin Ling seemed to have entered an extremely strange state. This was a state of stubbornness. He only had one goal, and that was to take the woman in white away. Perhaps it was this stubbornness that allowed him to persist until now. You don't come over. Seeing this, the white-clothed woman took a step back and gripped the holy artifact tightly in her hand. Kill him. At this moment, a voice resounded in the white-clothed woman's mind, causing her expression to change greatly. She kept shaking her head. No, I can't do it. Kill him, this man is here to steal the holy artifact. Saintess, don't forget that you're from the Immortal Temple. Kill him. However, the voice became more and more holy and cold. Under the voice, the swastika between the white-clothed woman's eyebrows also emitted light. This caused the white-clothed woman to be in pain. Kill him? Although she didn't know this man at all, she had a feeling that she couldn't do it. I'm here to take you home. However, the man walked forward with difficulty. Don't come over. Seeing this, the white-clothed woman became more and more worried. At the same time, she saw the Buddhist sword at her waist float up, and as if it was under her control, it shot towards the man. No. The white-clothed woman's beautiful eyes focused, and her voice was filled with intense pain. She couldn't control herself. She couldn't control the sword. Poof. That sword directly pierced through the man's chest. Blood gushed out, dyeing the white-clothed woman's clothes red like flowers blooming on her dress. Moreover, it broke her heart. For some reason, the moment the man was stabbed, her heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. She knew that she knew this young man. Although she still didn't have any memories of this young man, she was very sure of everything. At this moment, Lin Ling looked at the sword in his chest in disbelief. In the end, the corner of his mouth revealed a bitter smile, and his eyes revealed a trace of disappointment. This kind of disappointment made the white-clothed woman feel as if the entire world had darkened. She kept shaking her head and explaining, "It's not me, it's not me." Although she was the #1 saintess of the Immortal Temple and didn't need to pay attention to this man, there was a voice in her heart that told her to explain. She was afraid that this man would misunderstand her. Young master. At the same time, below the high tower, many afterimages angrily shouted. For Inuer, Lin Ling slaughtered the world and didn't hesitate to use his life force to activate the divine sword. He brought his half-dead body to the high tower in order to bring Inyuera home. However, Inyuera attacked Lin Ling with her sword. Could it be that she had a heart of stone? Even if she was a stubborn rock at this moment, she should have been melted by Lin Ling's deep feelings. It wasn't just him, even the experts at the Saint Realm in the distance had sighed as well. For a woman, he charged into the demon capital without fear of death. Who would have thought that in the end he would be killed by the Saintess? Saintess, everyone who isn't from the Immortal Temple wants to pollute the 9 provinces world. They are all sinners and can be killed. On the other side of the demon capital, an old monk indifferently said. His eyes didn't have any sympathy. He even revealed an expression as if the son of a demon deserved his punishment. He was the present great immortal elder of the Immortal Temple. The one who secretly controlled Inyuera was also him. At this moment, inside the high tower, Lin Ling looked at the cold sword in his chest and suddenly shook his head with a smile. He wanted to turn around and leave. This smile directly caused the woman in white to powerlessly sit on the ground. Silent tears also flowed down her face. She wanted to explain something but she didn't know how to. However, at this moment, a terrifying murderous intent arrived. Lin Ling, I finally found a chance to kill you. Yes. Outside the high tower, a woman riding an azure dragon coiled around the tower. Moreover, a dazzling golden sword appeared in her hand and shot towards Lin Ling like a meteor. This sword had the aura of the dragon clan. Lin Ling, if you didn't fight against so many heroes and were injured by the Saintess, I definitely wouldn't have this chance today. The woman holding the sword had an extremely cold expression. Her eyes were filled with a sinister light. You stole my talent. Today I want you to die. After you die, I will take your dragon bone and your everything. As the fatal sword came closer and closer, the woman couldn't help but let out a bell-like laughter. Moreover, her laughter was very cold. Chapter 3195. As expected of the God Slayer. How dare you? The white-clothed woman's expression changed when she saw this. She unleashed her full strength in an attempt to block the attack for the man. However, she was clearly a little slow. That fatal strike had already arrived in front of Lin Ling. If it hit Lin Ling with his current heavily injured body, Lin Ling would definitely die. In the blink of an eye, everyone below the tower frowned. They had never thought that the son of the devil, who had swept through all the heroes, would die in the hands of 2 women. This caused them to laugh bitterly. Since ancient times, heroes had a weakness for beauties. Perhaps only beauties could kill an expert like the son of devil. Young master, be careful. Doing didn't expect things to turn out like this. However, he was further away from Lin Ling and couldn't help at all. Am I going to die? Alas, what a pity. On the other side of the demon metropolis, all the big shots were watching this scene. Among them, the young demon lord actually let out a soft sigh, as if he was extremely regretful. He originally wanted to do something but in the end he was too far away to do anything. He could only helplessly help. In everyone's hearts, Lin Ling was already half a step into the underworld. The smell of death grew thicker and thicker, causing Lin Ling to feel as if he was experiencing terminal lucidity. Everything that had happened before also surfaced in his mind. His eyes narrowed as he stared intently at the woman before him. Longyang. He had long known that letting Longyang go would cause endless trouble in the future. Today retribution had indeed come. I, Lin Ling, have yet to take my revenge. How can I die here? Lin Ling roared inwardly. He had survived the attacks of countless saints and had even almost killed deity. Was he going to die here today? He couldn't accept it. Crackle. As if sensing his unwillingness, a sudden change occurred. Black lightning suddenly exploded out. It was as if Lin Ling were a seed that was beginning to sprout and grow. This was little Kunlun. Not long ago, Lin Ling went into seclusion to break through. At that time he gave a lot of nether dragon accompanying fluid to little Kunlun. After little Kunlun swallowed it, it went into a deep slumber. No one had expected that at the moment of Lin Ling's life and death, little Kunlun would awaken. Rumble. Moreover, this awakening was extremely terrifying. In just an instant, the black vines actually wrapped around the entire tower and spread across the ground like a tide. It actually had the aura of sealing the city. Clang. Longyang's sword cut through countless vines. The sound was like metal clashing. However, there were too many vines. Even though the sword was sharp, it could not stop the growth of the vines. In the end, the sword was entangled by the vines. At the same time, within the endless vines, a huge black flower bud appeared and swam towards Lin Ling. In the end, it wrapped around Lin Ling. Then, the flower bud retracted and disappeared into the endless vines. This unforeseen event could be said to have happened in the blink of an eye. By the time people reacted, the earth was still shaking. Oh no, he's going to escape. We can't let him escape. He has the sword of gods in his hand. This treasure must be kept. That sword is related to our divine escort mansion. The demonic son must have stolen it from the divine escort mansion. In other directions of the demon metropolis, various big shots arrived with an unstoppable aura. Their faces were filled with anxiety. This group of experts was clearly more ferocious. Many of them were in the late stage of the sage stage, and there were even a few martial ancestors. After they arrived in an instant, they immediately attacked the endless vines. Rumble. The vines began to wither. They could not stop the joint attack of these experts at all. However, after all the vines withered, people saw a huge hole in the ground. It seemed that the terrifying vines had carried Lin Ling away through the ground. Bastard. All the experts roared in unison. The demonic son had actually escaped safely under the joint attack of so many of them. Not only was this infuriating, but it was also a great humiliation. This was the best chance to kill him, but in the end he still escaped. Longyang also stood in the air. Her beautiful face was cold, and her hands were tightly clenched into fists. Why was Lin Ling so difficult to kill? Under the siege of the heavenly court led by martial god Qilin, not only did Lin Ling not die, but he also almost killed a god. Under the attacks of various big shots, coupled with the fatal blow from the sword, Lin Ling still managed to escape. Lin Ling, oh Lin Ling, who is he? Longyang suddenly remembered the poisonous wine she used in the spirit province. At that time Lin Ling returned to his previous life. Could it be that he was a god in his previous life? I'm sorry. Looking at the big hole in the ground, the white-clothed woman from the Immortal Temple seemed to be in a daze. She really wanted to tell the man that she really did not use the sword. She quietly stood on the spot like an ice goddess, but her eyes also began to look into the distance. Her eyes constantly flickered, making it impossible for others to know what she was thinking. In her heart, towards the sacred Immortal Temple, she also began to quietly waver. She felt that something was being hidden from her. Perhaps, her memories of her previous life had been erased. Thank goodness, thank goodness. At this moment, in the demon metropolis, Do Kening let out a sigh of relief. However, when he thought about the injuries Lin Ling suffered in this battle, he became worried again. Then, he quietly left the demon metropolis. As for the experts from various places, they all gathered in a corner of the tower in silence. The son of the devil. Finally, a white-haired old man spoke in a solemn voice. Without a doubt, the news of the son of the devil's reappearance and stirring up the eternal forbidden forest would soon spread throughout the 9 continents. This would also lead to more people, more big shots of the 9 continents, becoming very curious about the son of the devil. As expected of the God Slayer, good. The young demon lord of the eternal demon race revealed a mysterious smile. He seemed to be very happy that Lin Ling had escaped. Young demon lord, this child is truly frightening. He fought against the big shots of the 9 continents with the strength of a half-step saint and still managed to escape alive. Such a character will definitely be extraordinary in the future. However, he forcefully used the divine artifact before, so his life force must have weakened a lot. Another old man immediately said from the side. I hope he can overcome this great calamity because I want to cooperate with him once to slay the God Slayer. The young demon lord proudly spat out these words. Then he disappeared on the spot and entered the demon metropolis again to snatch the demon emperor's sacred item. The others also did the same. However, when they recalled the intensity of the previous battle, they would never forget it for the rest of their lives. To them, that battle could be considered a miracle. At this moment, a vine shot out from the ground like lightning. All the hard soil was cut open like tofu. Its speed was extremely fast, and a black flower bud was hidden within the vine. If Lin Ling woke up at this moment, he would definitely be surprised to find that little Kunlun had actually bloomed. However, at this moment he couldn't see any of this because the previous battle had left him in a life-and-death situation. Even though the flower bud continuously poured energy into Lin Ling's body, it was of no use. This made little Kunlun even more anxious. Chapter 3196. The Mysterious Old Man. Rumble. Not long after, on the other side of the ancient forbidden forest, the ground shook and a huge black snake slithered out. Upon closer inspection, it was not a black snake but a thick vine. Then, the vine began to grow and sealed the area, turning it into a world of vines. And at the center, a black and resplendent flower bud slowly bloomed, revealing an extremely pale young man. The young man was covered in injuries, especially the Buddhist sword in his chest. At this moment, it was glowing brightly and devouring his life force. Kunlun. Among the thousands of vines, a thick vine slithered over and caressed the young man's face, letting out a cry. Then the vine sensed that the young man's life force was disappearing. It began to panic. It was like a child pacing back and forth. Suddenly, the vine shook as if it had thought of something and quickly slithered into the young man's body. Then it took out a jade bottle and poured the fragrant liquid in the jade bottle into the young man's chest. A miracle was born. At this moment, the withered flesh and blood were slowly recovering. However, the evil Buddhist sword continued to devour everything. It was recovering and devouring at the same time. Just like that, the two sides were exhausted. When the little vine saw this, it finally relaxed. Although the young man still did not wake up, at least he would not die for now. Time flew by and a year passed quietly. The big shots of the 9 prefectures in the ancient Forbidden Forest left one after another. All kinds of rumors were spreading in the 9 prefectures. During this trip to the ancient Forbidden Forest, the big shots of the 9 prefectures fell one after another, shocking the 9 prefectures. Of course, the most shocking one was the son of the demon. In the Battle of Demon Metropolis, he fought against all the heroes and left a lasting impression. Unfortunately, the son of the demon disappeared in the end. Some people said that he was dead, some said that he was still alive but had become a cripple. Some even said that they saw the son of the demon in the myriad of worlds. All kinds of rumors floated around, making it hard to tell which were true and which were false. Finally, in the endless rumors, the 9 prefectures gradually quieted down. However, there were many groups of people who entered and left the 9 prefectures and traversed the myriad of worlds in order to find the son of the demon. One group of people was from the spirit state. The other group was from Jianghu. The remaining 2 groups of people were extremely mysterious. No one knew where they came from. However, no one knew that the son of the demon was still in the eternal Forbidden Forest, and he was still racing against the Grim Reaper. Because right now the amount of nether dragon accompanying liquid left for Lin Ling was decreasing. But on this day 2 figures were walking casually in the ancient Forbidden Forest. One of them was old while the other was young. The old one looked to be in his 70s or 80s. Although his hair was white, he looked extremely spirited. The younger one was a girl. She was about 8 or 9 years old and looked as cute as a porcelain doll. They chatted as they walked, but the girl's bell-like laughter could be heard from time to time. Of course, making such a ruckus in the ancient Forbidden Forest was no different from courting death. Rumble. A bone-armored parrot the size of a mountain flew down from the sky. This parrot was covered in colorful armor, and it was awe-inspiring. Most importantly, its aura was so terrifying that even a saint would have to avoid it. Little bird, don't block the way. But who knew that the little girl would point at the parrot and scold it? At first, the parrot wanted to swallow the 2 people. But when it saw them clearly, its huge bird head broke out in cold sweat. Ga. Then it ran away. Don't run, I haven't ridden you in a long time. Let me ride you. The little girl seemed to treat the demonic beast as a toy and chased after it. Her speed was extremely terrifying. In the blink of an eye, she appeared in front of the huge parrot. One was as big as a mountain while the other was as weak as an ant. However, the mountain-like demonic beast was trembling. Little you, don't run around. Grandpa still has business to attend to. However, at this moment the old man on the ground suddenly laughed. Oh. The little girl's short legs took a step forward and then walked towards the old man. The parrot looked at the old man in fear as if it had seen a god. Then it flew further and further away. This was probably the fastest speed it had ever flown in its life. In fact, all the demonic beasts in the Forbidden Forest had quietly gone into hiding. This made the old man and the little girl feel as if they were walking in their own backyard. Gradually, a black forest appeared in front of them. This forest was different from the other places. It had a sense of desolation and eternity. Upon closer inspection, this forest was filled with vines that sealed off the surrounding area. Not to mention entering the vines, even getting close to the vines would be a dead end. Everything could be seen from the bones of the demonic beasts at the edge of the forest. Grandpa, what is that? The little girl looked ahead and asked curiously. Yes, this is the god vine of desolation. It is very rare to see it in the 9 states. It only appeared in the era of the gods. It is said that during the war between the gods, the talents of the gods were brought out. The old man said calmly, I thought that this thing that disappeared with the era of the gods would be difficult to see again. I didn't expect it to appear in the Forbidden Forest. Grandpa, is this vine very powerful? The little girl's big eyes shone. The 2 of them walked as they walked. Strangely, wind and rain appeared around them. When they got close to the vines immediately moved aside, revealing a path to the center of the forest. Powerful, very powerful. If it grows up, a single vine can drown the entire 9 states. The old man said. Not long after, the two of them appeared in the center of the forest. There were very few vines in the center. Instead, there was a huge flower bud floating in the air. Beside the flower bud, a vine as thick as an arm was swaying slightly. We're here. A hint of ruthlessness appeared in the old man's eyes as he looked at the vine. I thought that this vine was born from the forbidden forest. It turns out that it is an outsider. The old man stepped forward and walked towards the flower bud. Then he saw the young man in the flower bud. It is the cursed Buddhist sword of the 9 states Immortal Temple. Moreover, it seems like it has been a long time since he was hit by the sword. He is still alive? What a waste. He actually used the associated dragon liquid to prolong his life. If such a young man dies, then so be it. What's the big deal? The associated dragon liquid is extremely rare. The old man frowned. He reached out with his aged hand as if he wanted to collect the associated dragon liquid. If he collected it, the young man would definitely die if he did not have the associated dragon liquid to prolong his life. Whoosh. However, at this moment, a black bolt of lightning struck and pierced the old man's hand. The old man was furious when he saw this, and then a wisp of a divine aura effused out from him. It actually caused the black bolt of lightning to be unable to move. Surprisingly, the black bolt of lightning was little Kunlun. I Namwolfing you am here. You dare to stop me? Do you know what kind of existence you are fighting? Chapter 3197. A Peaceful Island. Although the old man's voice was old, it carried an incomparable domineering aura. He stretched out one hand and grabbed the vine in his hand. The vine struggled like a small snake and could not break free from the old man's iron claw. You should clearly understand what kind of existence I am. The old man's eyes revealed killing intent as he looked at the half-dead young man. Wind and rain drifted past. Killing intent arrived in an instant. Grandpa, wait. However, at this moment the little girl suddenly shouted. This sentence made the old man's domineering expression instantly disappear and turn into kindness. What's wrong, Xiaoyu? The old man said with a smile. This big brother is not dead yet. He looks like he's in pain. Why don't we help him? The little girl stared at the young man and said with a frown. Xiaoyu, why? The old man still smiled. Because I feel that he's like my big brother. Yes. As soon as these words fell, the old man's heart trembled fiercely. Xiaoyu's big brother was actually a very ordinary person. He was caught by the old man from the myriad worlds and used to serve Xiaoyu. However, because of an accident, the young man was killed by the enemy in order to protect Xiaoyu. From then on, Xiaoyu did not have any playmates except for Xiaoyu and Xiaoyu. However, the old man knew that she still could not let go of that young man in her heart. They're different. Yes. The old man said indifferently. Same, I feel the same. Grandpa, promise me just help him once, okay? The little girl wrapped around the old man's arm and acted like a spoiled child. Alas, I really can't do anything to you. However, Grandpa will remind you that there's demonic chi in his body. The strength of that demonic chi is definitely from the era of gods. I'm afraid that such a person is not a good person. Yes. I believe him. Grandpa, save him. Forget it. This boy also has the chi of the dragon race's heavenly dragon. This heavenly dragon is the most righteous. Grandpa will save him once. However, it's really strange that one good and one evil can be gathered in one body. Yes. The old man finally sighed and said. He stretched out his palm and a small world appeared. That world had rain sprinkling down like dew. Grandpa, you actually used the rain dew? Yes. Seeing this, the little girl cried out in alarm. Immortal Temple Sword of Curse, ordinary methods cannot save it. Even the accompanying dragon liquid is the same. Apart from the wind and rain dew, I fear that it is impossible to break the curse. However, this old man has also suffered a great loss. How about this? The vine will leave with me and I'll save its life. Xiaoyu, what do you think? All right, Grandpa, as long as you can save him. Hearing this, the old man smiled and felt much better. The vine on the side seemed to understand their conversation. It caressed the young man's cheek reluctantly and slowly swam towards the old man. It knew that from now on it was going to leave Lin Ling. However, in order to save Lin Ling, it was willing to do anything. Even if this godlike old man wanted to refine it into a treasure or even a medicinal pill, it would not refuse. However, as soon as it began to swim, an arm suddenly grabbed at it. Bang! This arm actually grabbed onto the vine. Moreover, it was extremely strong and did not let the vine escape. This change caused the old man's expression to change. According to the norm, the young man should be half dead at this moment. However, he was actually still conscious. If you don't let go, then I won't save you. You choose for yourself, the old man said coldly. However, the arm still grabbed the vine and did not let go. Even if the vine kept resisting, the arm would not loosen at all. Even the old man was moved by her stubbornness. Grandpa, don't break them up. They must have relied on each other for survival and have gone through ups and downs together. If you break them up, Xiaoyu will feel uncomfortable. Yes. Just like Brother Tong, he left, but I don't want the heavens to break us up. Yes. The little girl looked at the young man, and as she spoke, she began to cry. Sigh. Yes. The old man's heart of stone finally softened. What a loss. Yes. Then he looked at the young man and said, You're too lucky. Today I'll treat you for free. Is that enough? I don't want that vine of yours anymore. Is that enough? Sigh, I've lost so much. Sigh. As if it had heard the old man's words, the arm actually let go. This caused the old man to be even more tongue-tied, and he almost vomited blood from anger. He did not know if this kid had really fainted or if he was faking it. Vine, take back the surrounding vines. I will cure him. Come with me. Follow me. The old man gently pushed the world in his hand toward the young man. Wrap him with your flower bud. In a month he will wake up. Yes. After that, he turned around and left with the little girl. The little girl licked her fingers and revealed an extremely cute smile. Time passed quietly just like that. At this moment, at the core of the ancient forbidden forest, there was a huge ancient lake. The ancient lake was filled with terrifying demonic beasts. Even if a martial ancestor was here, he would not dare to cross the lake. On the other hand, the island was full of birds and fragrant flowers. A little girl, a little rabbit, and a deer were running around on the grass. Not far from her was a quiet little house. There was a vine growing in the middle of the house, and a handsome young man was lying on the side of the vine. Suddenly, the young man exclaimed and sat up on the bed. He was none other than Lin Ling. The sudden awakening had caused him to feel slightly confused. He kept trying to recall, and all his memories gradually came back to him. I'm still alive? I remember Long Yang was here to kill me. Lin Ling frowned and looked to the side. He immediately saw little Kunlun, and he could not help but feel delighted. Big brother, you're awake. At this moment, the door was pushed open, and a little girl who looked like a porcelain doll walked in with her short legs. Behind her were a little rabbit and a deer. Such a combination made Lin Ling a little stunned. Grandpa said it was little Vine who saved you. Then, when you were hit by the sword, Grandpa saved you again. The little girl said with a smile. After she opened her mouth, Lin Ling realized that the little girl was growing her teeth. 2 of her front teeth were missing, which made her look extremely funny. Little Kunlun, you saved me. Then Lin Ling looked at the vine. Kunlun. The vine quickly wrapped around Lin Ling's left arm and returned to its original position on his arm. Then it fell into a deep sleep. Lin Ling kept trying to recall, and he gradually guessed a lot of things. Then he looked down and saw that there was still a sword mark on his chest. Around the sword mark, there were corroded scars that looked like the sun. This Buddhist sword is so scary. However, this little girl's grandpa actually saved me. He must be a god. Lin Ling muttered to himself. Then he sensed his whole body and immediately realized that not only were all his injuries healed, even his vitality was more vigorous than before. Even his godly devil body had been greatly enhanced, reaching the speed of 600 worlds. With the help of this enormous physical strength, Lin Ling was confident that he could reach the speed of 70 worlds. Chapter 3198. The Art of Wind and Rain. No wonder it was like this. Lin Ling couldn't help but feel a pang of heartache. This was because increasing one's physical strength could actually be replaced by other treasures, and the Nether Dragon Companion liquid was even more precious. Lin Ling had clearly suffered a great loss. Most importantly, using so much companion liquid only increased his strength by this much. It could be seen that most of the companion liquid was used to save his life. You're awake. At this time, an old man walked in indifferently. Thank you, Senior, for saving me. Lin Ling secretly glanced at him and found that he couldn't see through him at all. He immediately knew that this was someone that even Li Xiaoyao had to look up to. No need to thank me. If you want to thank someone, thank Xiaoyu. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't even care about ants like you. The old man was still indifferent. Lin Ling was shocked, but he guessed something and hurriedly bowed to the little girl. Hee big brother, no need to thank me. Grandpa is tough on the outside but soft on the inside. In fact, he saved you. The little girl suddenly giggled, causing Lin Ling to laugh as well. It's good that you're awake. Walk around and familiarize yourself with the surroundings. Also, I threw your sword on the other side. It's too dirty and can't exist here. The old man glanced at Lin Ling indifferently and then left the small house. Senior, can you tell the origin of that sword? Hearing this, Lin Ling suddenly shouted because he had always been curious about the origin of the scabbard. The old man suddenly stopped in his tracks as if he was thinking about something, but quickly left the small house. At the same time, a cold voice floated out. A despicable person, a sword he left behind. The voice floated into Lin Ling's mind, causing his pupils to constrict. From this sentence, he knew that this old man was someone from the era of gods. In the following days, Lin Ling recuperated on the island. At the same time, he recalled the scene that happened in the ancient forbidden forest. When he thought of Yuer, he felt an inexplicable pain in his heart. Brother Ling, do you hate Sister Yuer? After a period of interaction, Lin Ling could not withstand Xiao Yu's interrogation and naturally told her the reason for his injury. Therefore, Xiao Yu was also very curious about Yuer. Hearing this, Lin Ling smiled and looked into the distance. If it was me, I would definitely hate her. Because in order to find her, Big Brother Ling traveled a long distance to the ancient forbidden forest and even saved her from the hands of so many experts. In the end, she almost killed Big Brother Ling. I hate her so much. So, Big Brother Ling was right to leave back then. Xiao Yu rested her chin on her hands and imitated Lin Ling to look into the distance. I don't hate her. However, Lin Ling also spoke. His words shocked Xiao Yu. The reason why I want to leave is because I know that she is controlled by Immortal Temple. She forced me to kill her, but she doesn't want to kill me in her heart. Therefore I want to leave. I can't make things difficult for her. Lin Ling said with a smile. Brother Ling, why? Xiao Yu's eyes narrowed. When you grow up and meet someone you like, you will understand. I believe that the person who likes you will do the same. When two people are together, they shouldn't be so calculative. Lin Ling turned his head and scratched Xiao Yu's nose with a smile. Someone I like? Xiao Yu's eyes flickered. Then she chuckled and said, I understand. I don't hate Big Sister Yu now because she can't control herself. Moreover, I will meet someone I like in the future. I am willing to do anything for him. That's right. In a heartless world, people must have feelings. Lin Ling said with a smile. The two of them lay on the grass and chatted continuously. Occasionally there would be cheerful laughter. On the other side of the island, the old man looked at this scene indifferently. His eyes flickered continuously, but his cold expression gradually revealed a smile. Night gradually fell. Xiao Yu quickly became sleepy and fell asleep in Lin Ling's little house. Lin Ling carried the little white rabbit and the little deer into the house and gently placed them beside Xiao Yu. He looked at Xiao Yu and couldn't help but smile. He also liked this naive and innocent girl very much. Moreover, he was starting to miss Lin Yi and Yu Yu. Lin Ling, come out and see me. However, at this moment, a cold voice rang in Lin Ling's ears. Also, don't wake Xiao Yu up. Lin Ling nodded immediately and quietly left the house. Outside the house, the moonlight shone brightly. An ordinary-looking old man bathed in the moonlight. He placed his hands behind his back and looked indifferently at the ancient lake. How is your current strength? The old man's voice sounded somewhat emotionless. Senior, although I am in the 5th stage of the half-saint realm, I have few opponents in the late half-saint realm. I am not afraid of anyone unless they are at the peak of the half-saint realm. Yes. Lin Ling immediately replied. Very good strength. Yes. The old man nodded slightly. In fact, Lin Ling did not reveal all of his trump cards. For example, if he used his true inheritance, the dark sword, he could kill even a saint. However, with the example of consuming vitality the first time, Lin Ling would never use it again unless the great calamity came. How is your talent? The old man asked again. I have the space-time divine steel, which is the ultimate wild body. I have the demon eyes, which is also the ultimate wild body. I also have the body of the realm-devouring beast, one of the 4 great ominous creatures, and the dragon bone. I don't know what my current limit is, but I am sure that I will not be weak in the future. Lin Ling said honestly. He knew that even if he did not say anything, the old man would find out something with his strength. Boy, if I am not wrong, you should have the strength of 600 worlds. Moreover, your boundary essence is very strange. It seems to be in the 5th stage of the half-saint realm, but it is not much weaker than the 10th stage of the half-saint realm. However, I don't care about that. What I care about is your speed. Senior. Replying to Senior, the current speed is 70 realms. Too slow. You're too slow. Even saints can't catch up to you. I'll teach you the Wind and Rain 10,000 Realms technique. This is a ranked martial art. It's divided into Wind technique, Rain technique, 10,000 technique, and World technique. It can increase your speed by 200 realms. Yes. Hearing this, Lin Ling was shocked. The old man finally turned around and looked at Lin Ling indifferently. I know you are surprised, but the answer is very simple. I have something to do and need to leave this place. Therefore, I am entrusting you to take care of Xiaoyu. The strength of a martial artist cannot be improved in a short period of time. You can only work on your speed. At least if you encounter a strong enemy, you can escape even if you can't defeat them. Yes. This? Yes. Lin Ling was speechless. No wonder the old man was so kind. He wanted to teach him how to escape. If you have something to do and need to leave, I can wait for you on the island with Xiaoyu. If you don't return, I will not leave. Yes. Then Lin Ling said again. No. If I leave, the island will be the most dangerous place. If you take Xiaoyu away from here, I will find you in the future. Yes. Hearing this, the old man reprimanded. All right then. Please enlighten me. Yes. I hope your perception is not too weak. I don't have much time and patience to waste here with you. Yes. Chapter 3199. Entrusted to Lin Ling. In the following days, every time Xiaoyu fell asleep, the old man would guide Lin Ling in comprehending the Wind and Rain Myriad Worlds technique. This speed martial art was extremely terrifying and had the power to pierce through 10,000 worlds in an instant. It was divided into 4 realms: Wind technique, Rain technique, Myriad technique, and World technique. Wind technique increased the speed of 20 worlds, Rain technique increased the speed of 50 worlds, and Myriad technique increased the speed of 80 worlds. The final World technique was 200 worlds. Lin Ling's speed had always been his strength. After comprehending this martial art, his speed had undoubtedly increased again. It could be said that if he comprehended the Wind technique, no one in the Sage-to-Be realm could catch up to him, not even those in the initial stage of the Sage-to-Be realm. On this day, the old man called for Lin Ling again, and the way he looked at Lin Ling had changed. As expected of the 10,000 mammoth demonic eyes. Although it doesn't have any offensive power, its comprehension is truly terrifying. In less than a month, you've already cultivated the Wind technique. This is somewhat beyond my expectations. The old man smiled at Lin Ling. This was the first time he smiled at Lin Ling. Senior's guidance is still the best. Lin Ling also smiled. You don't have to flatter me. I treasure God Nanwolf and you know what I'm capable of. In this world, other than Xiaoyu, there's no one else that I can patiently guide. I called you out today to tell you that I'm leaving. Xiaoyu, I'll leave it to you. In the past, I saved your life. Today it's time for you to repay me. Complete this task and we won't owe each other anything. Can you do it? The old man looked at Lin Ling solemnly. At the end of his words, he actually bowed deeply. This caused Lin Ling's expression to change. He wanted to help the old man up, but the old man refused. This isn't me, treasure God Nanwoofing you, asking you for help. This is an ordinary old man asking you for help, so please protect Xiaoyu. The moment he raised his head, the old man solemnly said, unless the heavens and earth shatter, Xiaoyu will be safe and sound. Seeing this, Lin Ling also enunciated each word clearly. Aha, I realize that I like you a little. Hearing this, the old man couldn't help but laugh loudly. If Lin Ling said that unless he, Lin Ling, died, Xiaoyu would definitely be safe and sound. If that was the case, the old man would not be very happy. However, Lin Ling had said that unless the heavens fell and the earth cracked. This meant that even if Lin Ling died, Xiaoyu would be safe and sound. From this, he knew that the person he had entrusted him with did not disappoint him. Coupled with his observations over the past few days, he knew that although this kid was a little demonic, he was magnanimous and righteous. I'm leaving. Then the old man smiled and left. Senior, aren't you going to greet Xiaoyu? Seeing this, Lin Ling frowned. Hearing this, the old man sighed in his heart and laughed dryly. I'm afraid that she won't be willing. As soon as he finished speaking, he vanished from where he stood. Lin Ling immediately shook his head helplessly. Was it because Xiaoyu was reluctant? Or was this old man reluctant to part with her? In reality, it was more likely that the old man was reluctant. The next day, when Xiaoyu woke up, Lin Ling told her about the old man's departure. Unexpectedly, Xiaoyu's reaction was very calm. She was just a little disappointed. Xiaoyu already knew that Grandpa had something to do. However, he was always worried about Xiaoyu, so he accompanied Xiaoyu. Now that Grandpa is going to fulfill his promise, Xiaoyu is happy for him. Xiaoyu forced a smile. This change surprised Lin Ling. He had thought that Xiaoyu would be willful since she was young, but he didn't expect her to be so obedient and sensible. Don't worry, your grandpa will definitely come and fetch you. During this period, Brother Ling will also protect you well. Let's go, Brother Ling will bring you to see the outside world. Alright, bring little rabbit and little deer. The little girl's emotions were indeed very easy to pacify. She immediately jumped for joy, making Lin Ling shake his head helplessly. Next, Lin Ling brought little Kunlun and left towards the ancient lake. However, when they just got close to the ancient lake, terrifying demonic beasts broke out of the water. The power of the demonic beasts made Lin Ling suck in a breath of cold air. However, when he unleashed his full speed, 90 worlds appeared, and he easily crossed the ancient lake. This made Lin Ling stunned. It turned out that the old man had already calculated everything. The speed of 90 worlds was just right for the demonic beasts at the bottom of the lake to catch up. No wonder he wanted Lin Ling to cultivate faster. When he came to the shore, Lin Ling quickly saw his sword. After carrying it on his back, he walked towards the distance. On this day, the ancient forbidden forest attracted a strange group. A young man, a little girl, a rabbit, a deer, and a vine. Rumble. The young man was extremely ferocious. When he encountered the demonic beasts, he didn't retreat. Instead, he fought fiercely as if he wanted to vent all his frustrations during this period. The young man even dared to fight with a sage-level demonic beast. He relied on his illusory martial arts and his speed. Looking at the little girl, not only was she not frightened, but she was also cheering. This made one wonder if the little girl knew what fear was. After a period of time, Lin Ling finally walked out of the ancient forbidden forest. His gaze was fixed on Cloud State. Then Lin Ling looked beside him and saw that Xiaoyu was full of curiosity about everything in front of her. Let's go. Brother will bring you to see the prosperous world. Seeing this, Lin Ling couldn't help but smile. He was not in a hurry to go home. Instead, he brought Xiaoyu to the big city of Cloud State. Not long after, a luxurious big city appeared in front of them. Of course, to Lin Ling, such a big city was very ordinary. However, to Xiaoyu, this was the first time she had seen so many people in her life. On the streets, there were all kinds of strange things that blinded Xiaoyu's eyes. Brother Ling, look at what this is. It's a bunch of skewers. It's so beautiful. That's Tonghulu. Seeing that Xiaoyu was so happy, Lin Ling couldn't help but feel happy too. After all, he owed this little girl his life. Brother Ling, can I have one? No, just one. Hee, let's not talk about one skewer. Even if you want to eat a whole cart, Brother Ling will buy it for you. Brother Ling, you're the best. Wow, there's so many people. There aren't so many people in the ancient forbidden forest. There are tigers, monkeys, and other ugly magical beasts there. The two of them walked along the streets. The more Xiaoyu walked, the happier she was. She even let out a little rabbit and a little deer to wander around. Everyone was tongue-tied. Where did these two country bumpkins come from? They even brought a rabbit with them. However, when they saw how cute Xiaoyu was, they also laughed. They were infected by her naivety. Of course, they also saw that the young man with the sword on his back was very cold. It was as if he didn't want anyone to get close to him. That was the reason why they were afraid of him. Giddy up. At this time, on the spacious street, a tiger horse and a carriage galloped past. The tiger horse was a product of the ancient forbidden forest. It was a demonic beast, but half of it was a magical beast. It had a violent temperament and only people from big families could tame it. Therefore, when the tiger horse carriage passed by, the people were secretly shocked. What a grand show. They actually used tiger horses to pull a carriage. While they were still in shock, the tiger horses suddenly stopped. Each of them opened their bloody mouths and drooled as they stared at a white rabbit and a little deer by the side of the street. Chapter 3200. I don't care who you are. Why did you stop? A cold voice suddenly came from the carriage, causing the expert driving the horse to helplessly say, "The tiger horses seem to be a little hungry." Seeing the rabbits on the street, they seemed to be a little moved. Didn't we just finish feeding them the dragon crocodile meat? No, that rabbit doesn't seem to be an ordinary rabbit. Let the tiger horse eat it. A young man's head popped out of the carriage. His face was pale and his lips were red. He stared at the rabbit on the street and immediately said calmly. After that, he shrunk back and no longer cared about anything. Hearing his words, the guard in front of the carriage immediately accepted the order and dismounted. His eyes were extremely cold. In their eyes, a girl about 8 or 9 years old was squatting on the ground, feeding a little rabbit and a deer with candied haws. These two animals looked ordinary, but upon closer inspection, one would discover that they were somewhat extraordinary. For example, the rabbit's eyes were like jade, and upon closer inspection, there was ice and snow floating in them. This was the flying frost divine rabbit. Looking at the deer again, it actually had 4 horns and the horns were like dragons. This was the stealthy night indigo deer. These 2 spirit beasts were treasures that only appeared in the ancient forbidden forest. Thinking of this, the eyes of the guards burned with passion. What are you doing? Not long after, Xiaoyu's furious voice rang out. Someone was trying to steal her little rabbit. This little rabbit had grown up with her and was her best friend. Of course I'm going to eat your rabbit, the man said coldly with a ferocious face. His words caused Xiaoyu to be stunned. Her beautiful eyes immediately became moist as she looked at the fierce guards with some fear. Big brother. Then Xiaoyu cried and shouted. Her pitiful look made the passers-by soften their hearts. They stared at the guards and cursed in their hearts. How could they bully such a cute little girl? These guys were really scum. However, they knew the origins of those guards very well, so they only dared to be angry but did not dare to say anything. What a lovely little girl. Cry, the louder you cry, the happier we will be. On the contrary, the guards were somewhat perverted, and each of them began to laugh sinisterly. Xiaoyu. At this moment, a cold voice suddenly came from the other side of the street. Rumble. Soon after, a huge monster that looked like a demonic beast rushed down the street. Wherever it passed, it caused the entire street to shake. Crackle, crackle, rumble. The ancient bricks and stones on the street were sent flying. This change completely shocked the passers-by. The guards' expressions changed as well. When they came to their senses, Xiaoyu, a cold-looking man. This man carried a huge scabbard on his back as well as a black sword case. His long hair fluttered in the wind, and within his long hair, one could vaguely see a pair of cold eyes. With just a glance, those guards were already trembling with fear. Sir. They spoke nervously, knowing that this man was most likely a ferocious person. However, the blue-robed youth did not pay attention to them. Instead, he looked at the tearful little girl. Little you, what happened? Brother Xiao, brother Young? Yi, to me shower Xiaoyu, after her like her. Leave. Hearing this, Lin Linghu's eyes widened. Xiaoyu had saved Lin Linghu's life and was even more innocent. These people actually dared to kill her. His gaze turned towards the guards, and the coldness in his eyes became even more intense. Sire, this is a misunderstanding. We were ordered by the young master to catch a little rabbit and deer to feed the tiger horse. Since they belong to your family, then let's forget about this matter. One of them felt his heart tremble violently as he hurriedly apologized. You mean if this little girl isn't part of my family, you can bully her as you please? Lin Ling's voice grew deeper and deeper. This? The guards couldn't reply because this was the truth. If the blue-robed youth wasn't formidable, then why would they show mercy? Very good, even I don't dare to make her cry, but you dare to make her cry. Very good, very good. Lin Ling smiled, but his smile was very cold. With a twitch of his eyebrows, colorful flames appeared in the sky, and a huge shadow came crashing down. The space-time steel. Rumble. The street trembled as a tower-like stone tablet appeared, suppressing the ground. Several guards were directly smashed into meat paste. This kind of tyrannical method directly intimidated the entire city. No one had expected this young man to be so terrifying when he was angry. However, was this the end of it? Obviously not. Lin Ling's gaze swept across the street, and immediately fell on the tiger horse in front of the street. He took a step forward. Whoosh. Then he slashed with his sword. The tall tiger horse spurted out blood, dyeing half of the street red. It was killed by a single slash. After the tiger horse was killed, the carriage fell down and a few figures climbed out. There were a few good-looking beauties and a well-dressed young man. At this moment they were looking at Lin Ling in horror. Who the fuck are you? The young man roared angrily. So you're the one who bullied my Xiaoyu. Lin Ling looked at him coldly. Who's Xiaoyu? I'm just catching a rabbit to feed the horse. How dare you kill my tiger horse? Do you know who I am? The young man was even more enraged. Hearing this, Lin Ling's anger was even greater than his. He walked forward step by step, and a terrifying demonic aura permeated the air. His godly demon body was also surging with ferocious aura, causing the 4 most ferocious beasts of the universe to descend, and the entire city to cave in. Plop. The young man who looked like a spoiled brat was pressed down by the endless pressure, and his whole body was lying on the ground. Lin Ling walked over, and every step he took seemed to be stepping on the young man's heart. Finally, Lin Ling looked down at him condescendingly, reached out his hand, and suddenly grabbed the young man's neck and slammed him to the ground. Boom. The ground suddenly cracked and the cracks continued to spread. I don't care who you are. At the same time, a domineering voice floated out from Lin Ling's mouth. The whole city was shaken again. No one had expected Lin Ling to be so arrogant. He did not even bother to say anything, and directly attacked in a simple and violent manner. "Kid, who are you?" Such a commotion was naturally noticed by the city lord, and at this moment, he appeared with a large number of strong cultivators. "Father!" The young man suddenly shouted with difficulty. Until now he still did not understand what had happened. He only knew that he wanted to snatch a little rabbit, and in the end he was suppressed by someone. He was even beaten to a pulp. This kind of domineering action had always only happened to him, and he was the main character. However, today it happened to someone else, and he was suppressed by the domineering side character. "Yulin, don't worry. Father will not let him leave unscathed." A low shout came from the sky in the distance. The sky was filled with strong cultivators, and the leader was a burly man. At this moment he was looking down at the earth like a god. Chapter 3201. The Mysterious Swordsman. At this moment, the city lord was also confused because he did not know what had happened. However, he could see that someone had overturned the city and crushed his son. This kind of domineering behavior was going too far. Die. However, he did not know that this was just the beginning. On the ground, Lin Ling roared angrily and slashed with his sword. This slash combined 4 dantians and 60% of the demonic sword steps. Rumble. In the sky no one could block it. All the powerhouses were split into 2 and blood rained down. The city lord's face instantly turned pale. Only then did he realize that this person was so strong. Die. However, it was as if a demonic seed had been born in Lin Ling's heart. Before the slash ended, another slash came out. The entire ancient city was split into 2. "Sir, there was a misunderstanding." The city lord was no longer as tyrannical as before and hurriedly begged for mercy. Die. However, Lin Ling still slashed with his sword. In his heart, Xiao Yu's teary little face had deeply provoked him. This was because he had been recuperating on the island for so long, and all Xiao Yu had left him was an innocent smile. Even during this period of time with Xiao Yu, he was incomparably happy, as if he had let go of all his hatred. However, such a little angel had been scared to tears. This had clearly touched Lin Ling's reverse scale. Lin Ling allowed the demonic aura in his heart to erupt as he continued slashing with his sword. As he continuously used the scabbard, his body more or less had demonic aura. This was also the reason why Xiao Yu's grandfather did not allow the scabbard to enter the island. Lin Ling also noticed this point. However, he could only suppress it and could not control it. However, ever since an Ueris incident, his heart had been suppressed, so he allowed the demonic aura to wreak havoc. Rumble. This giant ancient city was undoubtedly destroyed today. Rocks the size of mountains tumbled in the sky like rice straws. The entire city was blown apart. When the city lord finally found out the reason for the youth's rage, he was speechless from anger. The destruction of the city was because of a rabbit. This must be a joke. Brother Ling. At this moment Xiao Yu was clearly frightened. The current Lin Ling was completely different from the Lin Ling of the past. After her voice floated out, it was like sweet dew after the rain, which actually made Lin Ling gradually calm down. In the end he stopped swinging his sword. "Today you must die. As for the others, forget about them." Lin Ling looked at the hedonistic young master on the ground and said indifferently. At this moment, the young master also knew what kind of existence he had provoked. At this moment he really wanted to cry because he had been a tyrant for many years, but he had always been safe and sound. However, in the end, because of a rabbit and a deer, he had to pay with his life. This made him extremely depressed. Could it be that his life couldn't even compare to a rabbit's? He'd originally intended to rescue his father, but he knew that his father probably wouldn't dare to offend this god of slaughter at this moment. Hee, because of a little girl you're going to destroy the city? However, at this moment, a smile suddenly came from the sky, causing Lin Ling to look up. He saw a beard-like man with a square face and a bearded face standing quietly in the sky, as if he had been waiting there all along. "Sir, it's none of your business," Lin Ling said indifferently. Although the person who came was in the early stage of the sage stage, Lin Ling had fought countless sage stage cultivators, so he didn't have much respect for the sage stage. You're really arrogant. Rumor has it that the son of the demon can toy with the 9 states and even destroy gods. Today I've seen it with my own eyes. You really live up to your reputation." The man smiled faintly, and with a wave of his right hand, a 2-meter-long broadsword appeared. The wind from the broadsword roared as it cut through the sky of the cloud state. This was an extremely powerful extreme weapon. Most importantly, he actually recognized the son of the demon. the son of the demon. Hearing the man's words, the entire city was in an uproar again, and everyone's expression changed drastically. Because the eternal forbidden forest was not far from the city, many people had heard of the rumors of the son of the demon. I actually provoked the son of the demon. Even the good-for-nothing young master felt a chill run down his spine. The entire 9 states is looking for you. I didn't expect you to still be in the cloud state. The man with the broadsword said again. So, you want to capture me now? Lin Ling also spoke. No, I'm only here for one purpose, and that is to save that trash of a young master. If you want to kill him, then go ahead and try. Hearing this, the man waved his broadsword and smiled faintly. Lin Ling didn't say much. With a twitch of his brows, the space-time divine steel floated up and suppressed the good-for-nothing young master. This action could be said to be in the blink of an eye. The man with the broadsword didn't expect Lin Ling to make a move so quickly. You want to kill him in front of me? Dream on. He swung his broadsword horizontally, and a terrifying thing happened. The sky was split into 2. The world above was blue and the world below was black. When the broadsword collided with the space-time divine steel, it was sent flying. Seeing this, Lin Ling was still expressionless. Without looking at the good-for-nothing young master, the demon sword in his hand slashed out coldly. What a terrifying junior of the half-saint stage. Praise. His body disappeared on the spot, and when he reappeared, he was already in front of the good-for-nothing young master. He swung his broadsword, shocking the world and making ghosts and gods weep. Clang. The sword and the broadsword collided, and a destructive shockwave destroyed the entire ancient city. Lin Ling's eyes flickered. This man's strength was not bad. However, the more the man wanted to save someone, the more Lin Ling wanted to kill him. With a wave of his left hand, the calamity-destroying sun bow appeared. He drew the bow and 4 arrows intertwined. The dragon god shot out and hovered in the sky, shocking the people around it. The people's hearts trembled violently. A battle of this level was something they could only see once in their lives. The 8 divine powers of the dragon clan. The broadsword-wielding man's expression also turned serious. He was puzzled. Lin Ling was clearly a 5th heaven half-saint, but his realm essence was terrifying. It was comparable to a 10th heaven half-saint. In addition, he could not see through Lin Ling's moves. It made him feel a lot of pressure. 9 deaths, 1 life saber. However, he was indeed a saint stage expert. After a moment of shock, his body exuded a mysterious aura. The desolate body appeared, and it was a treasured broadsword glowing with bloody light. After the broadsword appeared, his cultivation level rose crazily. When the dragon god's arrow was about to hit him, he suddenly swung his broadsword. This broadsword was like its name, 9 deaths, 1 life saber. After slashing out with this broadsword, he was also on the brink of death. However, when death approached, his broadsword became crazier. In fact, he liked the feeling of approaching death. Swoosh. This broadsword was not as earth-shattering as people had imagined. Instead, it flashed with bloody light. To Lin Ling's surprise, the heavenly dragon and dragon god that were entangled by 4 arrows were actually split into 2. In the half-saint stage, you are the first person in the 9 prefectures who can make me use this all-out saber. After killing the dragon god's arrow, the man stabbed his broadsword into the ground and revealed an excited smile. Now you have used your final move. You have lost. Do you think I can't kill him in front of you? Chapter 3202. You've lost. I think it's impossible. The man stood there quietly. The saber at his feet buzzed and exuded a destructive aura. The man and the saber seemed to have merged into one. Lin Ling felt that there was no one in front of him, only a saber. A saber had stopped him. I think it's possible. However, Lin Ling still spat out a sentence coldly. Go ahead and try. The man smiled and kicked the saber beside his feet. The saber flew up and landed in his hand. He held the saber horizontally and continued to block Lin Ling's path forward. Their auras collided madly in the ruined city, causing a terrifying vortex to appear in the sky. It was so shocking that it shocked everyone in the vicinity. The 2 of them were competing in martial arts. One wanted to kill, the other wanted to save. In the end, who would succeed? The good-for-nothing young master's face was extremely pale. He had become the prey of the strong. I'm going to attack. At this moment, Lin Ling finally spoke and broke the silence. Seeing this, the man tightened his grip on the saber. Bang! Lin Ling stomped on the ground and shot forward, the demonic sword in his hand rolling. The headless old man had quietly descended at this moment, as if the era of the gods had arrived. I've heard that he has a sword that's like a god. Seeing it today, it's indeed terrifying. It's a sword that gets fiercer as the battle goes on. The man growled. He held the saber with both hands and slashed fiercely, causing a bloody rainbow to appear in the sky. Clang. This slash was extremely terrifying. Not only did it cut Lin Ling's sword, but it also cut Lin Ling in half. This change undoubtedly caused the man to be stunned on the spot, holding the saber in his hand. Lin Ling obviously couldn't block the attacks of a Saint Realm expert against a half-Saint Realm expert. Seeing this, Xiao Yu shouted from afar, "Brother Ling! Li Hongwang, what are you doing? Why did you kill him?" At the same time, an angry voice came from the sky. A woman holding a long sword shot down from the sky. This woman looked to be in her 30s and she was quite pretty. Moreover, she was also at the saint stage. After she landed on the ground, she immediately gave the man a fierce slap. The man was also stunned. He kept shaking his head and said, "How would I know that he couldn't block a single strike? Previously, I saw that he was very powerful, so my fighting spirit was stimulated and I fought with all my strength. Therefore, I didn't expect this result. He's a half-step saint and you're a saint. You're actually so proud of bullying a junior. Moreover, you've killed him. This has disrupted our plan." The woman flew into a rage. She grabbed the man's neck and beat him until he cried out in pain. Crackle. The crisp sound of the slap made everyone's jaws drop. What kind of situation was this? "That's enough, Ho Yenru. I'm a man. How can I face people if you slap my face in front of everyone? That's enough." Dizzy from the beating, the man suddenly roared. "What? Li Hongwang, you dare to yell at me? You dare to stop me?" Tears actually flickered in the woman's eyes when she heard this. "No, I'm just afraid of hurting your hand. So, I'll do it myself." The woman seemed to be on the verge of tears, and it instantly terrified the robust man. He'd lost all his pride as a man, and he'd given himself over 10 slaps instead. This caused everyone to be even more flabbergasted. They'd thought that the man would resist, but in the end, he was afraid of hurting the woman's hand. How could there be such a man in the world who's so afraid of his wife? "It's time for the two of you to end your little tricks." While they were talking, a cold and indifferent voice suddenly resounded from behind them. This voice caused them to be shocked and they immediately turned around to look. The good-for-nothing young master was still seated on the ground, but a blue-robed young man had appeared behind him. Moreover, the blue-robed young man held a large sword, and it hung by the side of the young man's neck. "It's you? You're still alive? How could this be possible?" Both of them were stunned, and then they rubbed their eyes in succession, because they'd watched the blue-robed young man die with their own 2 eyes. Yet now, the blue-robed young man was alive and kicking, and he even controlled the life and death of the good-for-nothing young master. They felt as if they'd seen a ghost. How could they have known that the one they'd killed earlier was merely an illusion? At that time, Lin Ling had activated the illusion god True Inheritance, and coupled with the speed of the wind technique, he'd quickly bypassed the man and won the battle in the end. Whoosh. Before the two of them could say anything, Lin Ling had killed the good-for-nothing young master. Before the young master died, he didn't say anything. Perhaps he'd already known that he'd offended such a big shot today, and if he didn't die, the entire city would be destroyed. In a world where the strong were respected, the strong had this kind of right. Not to mention that his opponent was the son of the demon whose name shook the 9 provinces. "You've lost." After killing the young master, Lin Ling immediately sheathed his sword, turned around and left. The two of them were still stunned and then they kept shaking their heads. They hadn't expected that a sage stage expert would lose to the son of the demon in this battle. Moreover, this sage stage expert wasn't an ordinary sage. "Wait, I actually came to find you today because I have something to invite you to." Seeing that Lin Ling was about to leave, Li Hongwang anxiously spoke. However, Lin Ling completely ignored him. He held Xiao Yu's hand and continued to walk forward. "Wait." The woman also shouted, "We have a plan that requires your participation. I don't know if you'll give us face." However, Lin Ling still ignored her. "As a condition, I'll provide you with a piece of information that you'll definitely want to know." Seeing that Lin Ling was getting further and further away, Li Hongwang's face was filled with helplessness. He'd never seen such an arrogant half-sage stage expert who'd actually ignored him again and again. "Your people from Qingzhou have come to Yunzhou and have been captured. I heard that Qingzhou's Emperor Qing is coming here to save those people from Qingzhou." However, Li Hongwang knew that if he didn't say anything, the son of the demon would really leave. "Why should I believe you?" Finally, Lin Ling stopped in his tracks. This made the two of them let out a sigh of relief. What a difficult person to please. Because after the ancient forbidden forest ended, Qingzhou's Emperor Qing still didn't leave. Not long ago people from Qingzhou came here to look for you. In the end they were discovered by Tianzhou's Emperor Qing and were captured alive. Then he used them as a hostage to force Qingzhou's Emperor Qing to exchange for them. You should know that Qingzhou's Emperor Qing controls ancient powers. Therefore, even if he's not very strong, ordinary experts wouldn't dare to provoke him. Therefore, luring Qingzhou's Emperor Qing to Yunzhou was the best way. The two of them continued to speak. Hearing this, Lin Ling's eyes flashed, but he was still cautious. Why do you know all this? What's your purpose? What an overly cautious guy. Chapter 3203. Restart the deity slaying plan. As for why we are helping you, it is because we want you to join us in a plan. As for the person who was captured, we found out that he is a junior named Lin Yi. Lin Ling narrowed his eyes when he heard that. When they saw Lin Ling's expression, they immediately knew that Lin Yi must be related to the son of Demon. Lin Yi appeared in Yunzhou because he wanted to find you. You may not know that there are rumors about you in Jiuzhou. Some said that they saw you in the east region, some said that you were in the north region. Anyway, as long as there are rumors about you, there will be several groups of people looking for you. Lin Yi seems to think that you are still in Yunzhou, so he wanted to enter the eternal forbidden forest. Finally, he was discovered by the Emperor of Heaven and was captured alive. In the end, Lin Ling was certain that the two of them were not lying to him. If it was really Lin Yi, he would definitely come to Yunzhou to find him. Moreover, we can help you save them. You should know that although you are powerful, you are relying on other trump cards. Your real combat strength is only at the Sage-to-Be realm, Li Hongwang said. He had fought with Lin Ling before because he wanted to know Lin Ling's strength. As a condition, I hope you can join us in our plan. Yes. Li Hongwang said when he saw that Lin Ling was silent. What plan? Yes. Lin Ling frowned. Restart the deity slaying plan. Yes. When they heard that, they looked at each other and finally told him their purpose. Deity slaying plan. Yes. When Lin Ling heard that, his expression changed slightly. That's right. Because we have the same enemy, and there are many people who want to destroy God. We've formed an alliance, but we can't do anything to God. We've fought for many years, but to no avail. That's why our plan ended. However, not long ago your God-slaying grand spell formation completely moved us. That's why we know that you're indispensable to our plan to destroy God. Yes. They said with a smile. They knew that Lin Ling was moved. Interesting, okay, I will join you. Yes. Lin Ling finally understood the purpose of their visit. As for the deity slaying plan, of course it was martial god Qilin. Haha, wife, he finally joined. Seeing this, Li Hongwang laughed excitedly. The woman beside him also heaved a sigh of relief. She had finally managed to pull the son of the devil into her camp. However, in order to recruit this guy they had put in a lot of effort. Of course, with the name of the son of the devil, it was all worth it. Let's save the people first. Then I'll take you to see the other people who have joined the plan. Oh right, you've already met one of them and he has a very high opinion of you. Li Hongwang continued, if he knew that you were still alive, he would definitely be very happy. I have? Hearing that, Lin Ling was curious. You'll see when the time comes, wife. Get ready to work. Li Hongwang shouted excitedly, but the woman next to him slapped him fiercely. I told you, don't call me wifey outside, call me by my name. I'm sorry, wife, I know I was wrong. Li Hongwang held his cheeks and said pitifully, but as soon as he finished speaking, another slap landed on his face. This made Lin Ling shake his head and laugh. This guy was tall and strong, but he was unexpectedly henpecked. Even Xiaoyu began to giggle. The few of them quickly left the ancient city and headed in another direction. That was obviously the core area of the Cloud State. The Cloud State was below the Spirit State, but because it was in the territory of the Cloud Emperor, Lin Ling alone could not shake the Cloud Emperor. As for the Sky Emperor? Not long ago in the Demon Metropolis, this guy repeatedly framed Lin Ling, and Lin Ling had long wanted to kill him. Moreover, in the Cloud State that guy could not use his ancient power anymore. Lin Ling and Xiaoyu stayed in an inn. Lin Ling carried the little white rabbit and the little deer to bed, then covered Xiaoyu with a blanket. Just as he was about to leave, he saw Xiaoyu looking at him with bright eyes. Xiaoyu, what's wrong? Nothing, I can't sleep. Seeing Xiaoyu's cute appearance, Lin Ling immediately knew that Xiaoyu must be thinking about what happened during the day. This was because in Xiaoyu's heart, Lin Ling was the big brother next door, bright and cheerful. However, today, Lin Ling's demonic aura clearly shocked her greatly. Lin Ling shook his head helplessly. In his life he had learned martial arts and he had killed countless people. Are you thinking about what happened during the day? You're a little scared of Big Brother? Of course not. Xiao Yu anxiously said, as if she was afraid that Lin Ling would misunderstand. Lin Ling immediately smiled and stroked Xiao Yu's smooth forehead, saying, Xiao Yu, your grandpa is right. Big brother Lin Ling is not a good person, and he has killed many people in his life. He doesn't want you to be with me because he is afraid that I will lead you astray. However, Xiao Yu, don't worry. No matter what kind of person I am, even if I am the great demon of the 9 states, in front of Xiao Yu, I am the big brother who will protect Xiao Yu. Xiao Yu, you just need to live a happy life. Big brother will take care of all the dirty things for you. After saying this, Lin Ling smiled and left. The lights in the room were turned off, but Xiao Yu's big eyes were shining. She hugged the rabbit next to her and said, Little white rabbit, I don't think big brother is bad at all. However, the little white rabbit had already fallen asleep and was snoring. I can't see. I didn't see big brother Lin Ling kill people. He is my good friend who played with me on the grassland. Then Xiao Yu comforted herself and gradually fell asleep as well. Early the next morning, the ancient city was bustling with noise and excitement. The martial artists of the Cloud State were all walking towards a huge square. This was because 3 days ago, Emperor Yun had sent out a message that he was going to form an alliance between the Cloud State, the Sky State, and the Qing State. This was great news for the Cloud State. According to Emperor Yun's message, as long as the alliance was successful, the Cloud State would receive many cultivation resources from the Qing State. Although the Qing State was the weakest in the 9 states, it was still one of the divine lands. Naturally, there were many cultivation resources there. Let's hope it works. I heard that Emperor Qing wants Emperor Yun's help and wants the Cloud State to protect the Qing State. That's why he made this request. Humph, this Emperor Qing wants our help but doesn't want to pay. Isn't he thinking too highly of himself? Yeah, I heard from the Yun residents that Emperor Qing only gives us 1/3 of his cultivation resources every year. In my opinion, he should give us half. As they walked along the main road, the people discussed animatedly. Moreover, when they thought of the Qing State asking for their help, they felt a sense of superiority. On a huge square, all the strong martial artists of the Cloud State had gathered. 3 high platforms were located in 3 different directions of the square. On them sat the emperor gods of each state. They sat there quietly, making the square extremely silent. This was because the aura of the emperor gods was quietly spreading, making people feel as if they could not look directly at them. Today we are indebted to the 2 emperor gods for coming to the Cloud State as guests. This is the blessing of the Cloud State. Chapter 3204. Translator. Naoibo Studio Fate really wasn't that convincing. The one who spoke was a man in a dragon robe. He sat on the dragon throne with his eyes half closed and sipped his tea. His action seemed simple but it carried a domineering aura. He was Emperor Yun of the Cloud State. Haha, today we have formed an alliance. In the future, the 3 emperors will definitely rule over the 9 states. The Divine Prefecture, where we are located, will definitely rise in ranking. I have this confidence. Next, a man in a white dragon robe spoke. It was the Celestial Emperor of Tianzhou. Their words had undoubtedly stirred up Yunzhou. The 9 prefectures were ranked. Their Cloud Prefecture, Sky Prefecture, and Qing Prefecture were ranked at the bottom. Therefore, when they saw the other Divine Prefecture martial artists, they more or less felt inferior. But in the future, their Cloud Prefecture would also be ranked at the top. This was naturally something to be happy about. What a shameless person. On the 3rd seat, the 3rd princess said in a low voice, her face expressionless. If we hadn't captured Lin Yi, we wouldn't have come here personally. Also, the alliance is just taking advantage of our Qingzhou. They didn't pay us anything at all. Instead, we have to pay them a salary every year, said an old woman angrily. She was Grandma Wendao. It was obvious that Qingzhou had been forced into this. Because if they did not come or even if they did not agree, then Lin Yi would die. Emperor Qing, what do you think? As though they knew that the 3rd princess was unwilling, the 2 god emperors cast their gazes over. Hearing this, the 3rd princess and the others were even more furious, but they didn't say anything. Men, bring out the spy of the 9 states, 10 rapscallions. This person wanted to disrupt the order of the 9 states, but he was discovered by Emperor Yun's divine eye. In order to save the people of the 9 states, Emperor Yun personally captured this spy. Today this spy will be beheaded in public and let the people of the 9 states know that the 9 states can be safe with our Emperor Yun around. The Celestial the Arch suddenly yelled. In the middle of the square, an iron cage slowly rose up. Inside the cage was a young man who looked extremely weak. He was Lin Yi. Clearly, the Celestial Emperor saw that the 3rd princess was hesitating, so he deliberately made an example of the third princess to force her to agree. Bastard. Seeing the weak Lin Yi, Grandma Wen Dao and the third princess's eyes turned red. At this moment they had no choice but to agree. Hee, that's a nice way to put it. Your era is coming. However, I heard that in the eternal forbidden forest, Sky Emperor of Tianzhou and Emperor Yun of Yunzhou have become other people's dogs. Since they are made to be dogs, there is no future for them. But at this moment, a mocking voice suddenly sounded from the silent crowd. When Emperor Yun and the Sky Emperor heard that, their eyes flashed with anger. The warriors of the Cloud State were naturally enraged because the intruder had called their Emperor Yun a dog. Nobody's talking? Or was it a silent agreement? Haha, the alliance of the three great divine continents made Qingzhou pay the price, but you guys only want to reap the benefits. How can you guys be so thick-skinned and say such things? Amidst the silence, the voice rang out again. Yunzhou was even more furious. Who was it that was so arrogant as to reprimand two great god emperors in front of the entire Cloud region? Sir, why are you acting so sneakily? Do you only dare to speak in the dark? Moreover, the alliance of the three great divine continents is a matter of fate. No one can change it. However, before Emperor Yun could speak, the warriors of Yunzhou had already started scolding. That's right, this is a matter of fate. Yunzhou will definitely become the pinnacle of the 9 states in the future. Emperor Yun will surpass the two great god emperors of Miao State and Yin State and rule over the 9 states. This is also the Son of Heaven's fate. Then the voices in the square became louder and louder. Come out if you dare. An old man floated up and looked around the crowd for the person who had spoken. If I come out, I'm afraid the two god emperors will be wary of me. However, when the crowd thought that the troublemaker would not dare to speak again, the disdainful voice floated up again. Shameless boasting. The crowd roared and snorted in their hearts. The intruder was so stupid. He was about to die and yet he was still so arrogant. Sir, you may have a good reputation somewhere, but you seem to treat Yunzhou as your home. Fate is the most mysterious thing. You may be above everyone in one moment, but the next moment you will die. This is the fate of taking a wrong step. At this moment, Cloud Emperor finally spoke. Is that so? Then let me ask you. What is the fate of the young man in the cage? Just as Emperor Yun finished speaking, another voice floated out from the crowd. What was surprising was that this voice was very faint, as if it floated out from every corner of the square. His fate is death. This time Emperor Yun did not speak. Emperor Tian spoke coldly. All the land under the heavens belongs to the emperor. In Yunzhou, Emperor Yun's words are the will of the heavens. He can summon the heroes to defy the heavens and change their fate. At the end of his speech, the celestial emperor stood up, and the aura of a saint surged out from him. The square was instantly in an uproar. The martial artists looked at the two god emperors with admiration. It was as if the two god emperors had already led them to the peak of the 9 states. Suddenly, the voice in the square also quieted down. The third princess and Grandma Wen Dao frowned. They had to admit that they admired the person who dared to speak. However, in Yunzhou, it was useless no matter what the person said because the martial artists of Yunzhou were naturally on Emperor Yun's side. Therefore, the outcome of arguing with Emperor Yun would be miserable. What's wrong? You don't dare to speak? Come out, didn't you say you don't believe in fate? Yunzhou is telling you no matter where you hide, as long as you're in Yunzhou, you can't escape. Seeing that the voice was silent, the martial artists of Yunzhou looked around, trying to find the person who was courting death. However, the voice remained silent. Emperor Yun smiled disdainfully. He's just a clown. Everyone ignore him. His fate has already been decided by me. After today's matter, he will die without a doubt. Emperor Yun, Emperor Yun? Hearing that, the people shouted in admiration. I'm sorry, fate really doesn't have much persuasion for me. However, at this moment, the voice that seemed to have disappeared suddenly sounded again. Moreover, the crowd was forcefully separated and shot into the sky like fireworks. Those martial artists seemed to have been thrown out alive. Then, a slender figure walked out, holding the hand of a little girl. When this person appeared, the martial artists of Yunzhou were undoubtedly furious. Fate really doesn't have much persuasion for me. How domineering was this sentence? Looking down on fate and challenging fate, this was the worst kind of person who did not know what was good for him. However, the eyes of Emperor Yun and the rest trembled violently when they saw the person who had come. As for the third princess and the rest, they stood up in shock and said in disbelief, "Little Li, master." Under everyone's gaze, Lin Ling smiled, held Xiaoyu's hand and walked out step by step. Chapter 3205. Translator, Nioibo Studio stomp on the cloud state. How dare you? Who the hell are you? Finally, someone let out a cry of surprise and looked towards the two emperor gods. However, what terrified them the most was that the two god emperors didn't move at all. Instead, their faces were filled with shock and paleness. This time, Cloud Prefecture fell silent. Because to be able to make two god emperors suddenly stop talking, this person was obviously not simple. They suddenly remembered what this person had said before. If I come out, even these two god emperors will be wary of me. Right now, everything was as such. Lin Ling, on the other hand, was still as calm as ever. However, he drew his sword with his right hand and ruthlessly slashed at the cage. With a cracking sound, the cage was cut into two halves, revealing the unconscious youth. This caused everyone to be shocked once again. This was because Cloud Emperor had said that the fate of the captured young man was death. Yet now the person who came personally saved him, breaking his fate once again. Emperor Yun? Everyone hurriedly looked at Emperor Yun. Could it be that Emperor Yun was going to let them do whatever they wanted? However, Emperor Yun continued to stare at the newcomer in silence. No one knew what he was thinking. Let me. Seeing that Cloud Emperor remained silent, an expert from Cloud State finally made his move. Although this person was a half-saint, there were many half-saints in the Cloud Prefecture. Rumble. A large number of half-step saints shot out and unleashed their ultimate techniques one after another. The saints' light seemed to envelop the entire Cloud Prefecture. I can see your fate clearly. That is death. Almost at the same time, Lin Ling also opened his mouth. He gently lifted his foot and stomped heavily on the ground. Boom. The power of 600 worlds fused with the four great Danshians, and a shocking explosion erupted. There were also the four ferocious realm-swallowing beasts and dragon god Qi. With this stomp, the entire cloud state was crushed. With Lin Ling as the center, the earth cracked open. The soil was like a tidal wave that rushed outwards. Gradually, the core city of Yunzhou collapsed like a domino. As for those half-saints that had charged over, all of them were blasted flying by the ferocious force, and then their bodies exploded apart in midair. This step was clearly stomping on the cheeks of everyone in the cloud state. The faces of the cloud state cultivators all turned red, as if they had seen their father's murderer. How many years has it been since they've been humiliated like this? Plus, the opponent was only one person. One person dared to humiliate the entire Yunzhou? Those experts couldn't hold back their anger and charged forward once again. Even if they had to use the human wave tactic, they still wanted to kill this person. Stop. However, at this moment, a majestic voice finally sounded. It was the voice of Cloud Emperor. This made everyone's jaws drop. These people were so arrogant, but Emperor Yun actually asked them to stop? Son of the devil, the cloud state has no grudge against you. Why are you treating us like this? However, Emperor Yun ignored the crowd. Instead, he stared at Lin Ling and said solemnly. As soon as he said that, everyone fell silent. The son of the devil. This young man was actually the son of the devil. Wasn't he dead? At this moment, those who had been hooting earlier were like ducks that had been grabbed by the neck. No wonder even Emperor Yun was wary of him. It turned out that Emperor Yun had to give him face because of his reputation as the son of the demon. Because today I'm here to decide your fate. Lin Ling looked at Emperor Yun and spoke softly. Then I wonder what our fate will be? Hearing this, Emperor Yun frowned and asked. Death. Lin Ling shrugged as if he was talking about the most normal thing in the world. However, as soon as he spoke, the entire sky of Yunzhou was filled with murderous intent. Emperor Yun and Emperor Tian exchanged glances. Their expressions were unusually ugly. What was surprising was that they didn't explode in anger. Son of the demon, we have no grudge against you. Why do you want us to die? Your enemy is the saintess from the Temple of the Immortals, the Heavenly Court. Emperor Tian said again. It was obvious that he didn't dare to challenge Lin Ling. Because in Tianzhou, he had already suffered at the hands of Lin Ling. In the Forbidden Forest, he personally witnessed how terrifying Lin Ling was. In other words, even if they had the confidence to kill Lin Ling, they wouldn't be much better off. No grudge. Hearing this, Lin Ling laughed. In the ancient Forbidden Forest, the Heavenly Emperor had bewitched the experts of the 9 prefectures to kill him twice. Lin Ling had witnessed it for himself. Now, Emperor Yun had the nerve to say that he had no grudge against him. I just want to kill you. So what? Lin Ling didn't bother to explain. He shrugged and said, I don't need a reason to kill you. Hearing those domineering words, the Celestial Emperor was undoubtedly angered again. Then when did I offend you? Emperor Yun seemed to have a good relationship with Emperor Yun. However, at this time he didn't want to get into trouble. Then do you know who this young man is? Lin Ling suddenly looked at Lin Yi. Emperor Yun was confused. He had listened to Emperor Yun and captured this person. However, he didn't know who this person was. It seems like you've been used as a tool. Let me tell you. He is my son Lin Yi. Seeing this, Lin Ling said word by word. His words were like thunder on a sunny day. Emperor Yun's body trembled. Son? The son of the demonic son? He knew that things were going to get troublesome. This was because he had wanted to kill the son of the demonic son. With how crazy the demonic son was, he wouldn't let it go. After all, the demonic son was a crazy demon who didn't even fear the gods. Emperor Yun, why didn't you tell me about this? Emperor Yun turned and looked at Emperor Yun angrily. It was Emperor Yun's idea to capture Lin Yi. I thought the son of the demon was dead. That's why I suggested it. Moreover, if we capture this person, the Azure Emperor will definitely come personally. Weren't you very tempted by this alliance back then? Heaven Emperor said expressionlessly. If I knew he was the son of the demonic son, I wouldn't have captured him. Emperor Yun, you've killed me? Emperor Yun was furious. If it weren't for the enemy, he would have taught Emperor Yun a lesson. Stop arguing. Both of you are going to die. While the two were arguing, Lin Ling interrupted them and reminded them, the enemy is right in front of you. Don't you think you're letting the enemy off easy by fighting among yourselves? When these words came out, the two emperor gods finally reacted. However, their hearts were pounding. If an ordinary person saw this scene, they would definitely not say anything. They would just watch the two emperor gods fight among themselves. However, the demonic son had reminded them. This kind of confidence, this kind of arrogance, it was impossible not to be surprised. Master, you're so powerful. Third princess, Grandma Wendao, and the others smiled and hurried towards Lin Ling. Behind them were the experts from Green State. They were all overjoyed. Because they knew that the composed young man was shockingly the Azure Emperor who stood behind the scenes in Pine Prefecture. However, they never expected the Emperor Qing behind the scenes to be so powerful. He alone was enough to make two emperor gods of the divine prefecture so fearful. Third princess, Grandma Wendao, take Lin Yi away. I'll deal with them. Lin Ling looked at the two of them and smiled. He also asked Xiao Yu to follow third princess. However, Xiao Yu shook her head. She hugged the little rabbit and led the little deer. She looked a little shy. Brother, I won't go. I'll stay here and watch you. Chapter 3206. Go all out. Lin Ling then turned to look at the celestial the arch. The Sky Emperor also looked at Lin Ling. He knew that a battle of life and death was inevitable. Lin Ling, don't be too arrogant. If you really want to kill me, you may not succeed. Although the Sky Emperor had repeatedly suffered losses in front of Lin Ling, he knew of Lin Ling's trump cards. First, the God's Boat. Second, the God's Enchantment Array. Third, the God's Sword. But at present, the first two trump cards weren't here. As for the God's Sword, it consumed one's vitality. Lin Ling had used it once before, so he shouldn't dare to use it again. I really don't think it's that difficult. Hearing this, Lin Ling smiled. From head to toe, terrifying boundary essence began to erupt, like a tide, like clouds. He stretched out his right hand, and the Tyrant Song Sword appeared in his hand. Without wasting any time, the 60% Demon Sword step slashed out. Following that, Lin Ling pulled back his sword, drew his bow and shot 4 arrows. The spacetime Divine Steel also came crashing down from the sky. And Lin Ling, who had unleashed all of his firepower, was without a doubt extremely terrifying. The martial artists of Cloud State were scared silly. He's gotten stronger again. The Heavenly Emperor's expression changed drastically as he unleashed all of his ultimate techniques. He was at the second heaven of the Saint Realm, and he hoped that he could stop Lin Ling with his cultivation. But in reality he didn't have much confidence. Because he had witnessed the battle in the ancient Forbidden Forest. Rumble. Of course, when a person was close to death, their potential was indeed stronger than usual. After using his full strength and even his trump card, he actually managed to block Lin Ling's all-out attack. Ha, Lin Ling, you can't do anything to me. The Celestial the Arch was laughing maniacally, but there was also blood seeping from the corners of his mouth. It was clear that he had swallowed a poisonous substance that burned away his vitality in order to enhance his offensive power. Really? Seeing this, Lin Ling was also slightly shocked. However, he could also see that the Sky Emperor had borrowed some forbidden medicine. It could be said that as long as Lin Ling could hold the Sky Emperor back, the Sky Emperor would undoubtedly die. You can actually block so well? Let's see how long you can block for. Lin Ling coldly spat out these words. His surroundings became illusory, and the world within several thousand miles changed. Spring, summer, autumn, winter, chaos, and even the age of gods, Lu Xian appeared one after another. This move shocked the entire cloud state. Illusion. Emperor Yun and the Celestial Emperor exclaimed in unison. So what if you know? Can you break it? Lin Ling disappeared into the illusion, causing the illusory world to be filled with Lin Ling. Furthermore, every Lin Ling was firing at full power, bombarding the Heavenly Emperor. And this time the Celestial Emperor panicked. Although he knew that these were all illusions, he could not tell which were real and which were fake. He could only engage in a chaotic battle. And such a chaotic battle would only continue to consume his life force. After all, the poison did not last long. On the other hand, thousands of miles away, people could see that the Sky Emperor was like a madman, attacking everywhere. However, there was no one around him at all. Under the Sky Emperor's crazy attacks, many martial artists in Cloud State were implicated by the Sky Emperor's means and were blown to death. As time passed, the Sky Emperor became more and more panicked. Emperor Yun, save me. Emperor Yun's expression was extremely solemn. He was also frightened by Lin Ling's means. Those illusions were too heaven-defying. It could probably torture an expert to the point of insanity. And now should he make a move? If he did not make a move, he would be next after the Sky Emperor died. If he made a move, he might completely offend Lin Ling. Emperor Yun, if you make a move, I can guarantee that you will die faster than the Sky Emperor. As if sensing Emperor Yun's hesitation, Lin Ling placed his hands behind his back and said plainly. His words made Emperor Yun's thoughts even more chaotic. His face turned red. The martial artists in Cloud State also knew Emperor Yun's scruples, but they could not take it lying down. This was because the demonic sun had dominated the entire Cloud State alone. This was a great humiliation to them. Emperor Yun, make your move. He will kill you sooner or later. Why are you still afraid of him? That's right. If the two celestial emperors join forces, they might be able to kill him. He is confusing you because if the Sky Emperor dies, the demonic sun will have nothing to fear. This is all part of his scheme. The martial artists in Cloud State shouted one after another. These words made Emperor Yun's body tremble. That's right. If Lin Ling could kill him, he would have done so long ago. Why wait here? Obviously, Lin Ling could only barely kill the Sky Emperor. If the two celestial emperors joined forces, Lin Ling would definitely be defeated. Moreover, he still had the ancient power. Thinking of this, his eyes lit up and his lips curled into a cold smile. Lin Ling naturally noticed that smile as well. He shook his head regretfully and said, "Looks like you're going to die even faster than the Sky Emperor." Ah, demonic son, I have seen through your scheme. Are you still trying to intimidate others? Your strength is only barely enough to defeat the Sky Emperor. That's why you are afraid of us joining forces. You are even more afraid of my ancient power, am I right? Emperor Yun floated up, looking majestic. However, his long hair was loose and he looked like he had gone mad. Perhaps this was the most difficult decision in his life. It was also the most difficult battle. Therefore he became hysterical. Demonic son, you have lost. You will die in Cloud State today. Now that I have seen through your scheme, you should be afraid and regretting it. Ah. Emperor Yun opened his arms. He did not use his own strength, but summoned his ancient power. This was the safest way to kill Lin Ling. Emperor Yun, kill him. Sensing the godlike power in the sky, the warriors of Cloud State were in high spirits. Don't worry. I will kill him. I will kill him. I will kill him. Emperor Yun seemed to be determined. He roared, "Demonic son, it's time for you to admit that you can't kill me." Ah! The sky gradually darkened as a gigantic palace descended from the heavens, suppressing all living beings in the world. This ancient power was definitely stronger than the one summoned by the Lotus the Arch. It was even stronger than what Lin Ling saw in Spirit State. Of course, because Spirit State had the Mi and Xian sects, Lin Ling saw the ancient power of the Xian sect master. If he added the ancient power of the Tantra sect master, it was definitely stronger than Cloud State's. Master. Looking at the dark clouds above the divine palace, the third princess was a little worried. Third princess, don't disturb him. That kid won't die so easily. Beside her, Grandma Wendao said sternly. However, her eyes flickered because she did not have such confidence. It was also because the current Lin Ling's strength had exceeded Grandma Wendao's understanding. And this was the kid from the rainforest sacred land. However, under their voices, Lin Ling still had his hands behind his back and was indifferent. Brother. Even Xiaoyu began to worry. The mark of wind and rain had quietly appeared between her brows. It was extremely mysterious. Looking at Emperor Yun, he was still roaring like a madman. Most importantly, he saw that Lin Ling did not counterattack. Therefore, he thought that Lin Ling had given up. Chapter 3207. That doesn't mean others can't kill you. Haha, son of the demon, you may not have said anything, but you've admitted that you can't kill me. Fate wants you dead, so you'll die today. Emperor Yun's voice grew louder and louder. The ancient palace was only 1,000 miles away from Lin Ling. Fate isn't convincing at all. But at this moment Lin Ling finally spoke. Attack. Just as he finished speaking, two strange figures suddenly appeared behind Emperor Yun. One of them held a long spear. When the spear struck, plum blossoms fluttered. The other held a large saber. When the saber struck, it split the heavens. These were two Sage Realm experts, and they were attacking Emperor Yun at the same time. The ancient power that Emperor Yun controlled was now focused on Lin Ling. He couldn't block it at all. His expression instantly changed greatly. His mood was extremely terrible at this moment. He knew that he might die faster than the Sky Emperor. Was this fate? I've been fooled. Emperor Yun let out a roar, feeling extremely indignant. Actually, what you said before was right. I admit that I can't kill you, but that doesn't mean others can't. On the ground, Lin Ling shrugged his shoulders and said. After he spoke, the two sages' attacks had already arrived. They were extremely sharp and cut through the heavens. Emperor Yun was cut in half in front of countless people. His head was even pierced through by the spear. Emperor Yun was dead. This result was too quick. The martial artists in Cloud State didn't seem to be able to react. In fact, if Emperor Yun was wary of these two, he wouldn't have died. Unfortunately, the ancient power was targeting Lin Ling. After Emperor Yun died, the ancient power in the sky suddenly shook. Then, as if it had lost its master, it floated towards the heavens. Looking at Lin Ling again, he still had his hands behind his back and his eyebrows twitched. Under his soul, the illusions in the distance all disappeared, revealing a man covered in blood who looked like a demonic person. The terrifying thing was that this man's body continued to swell. His skin looked like it was filled with bubbles. Obviously, this man had swallowed the poison left behind by the gods and suffered side effects. And he was the Sky Emperor. At this moment, the Sky Emperor was still conscious. He stared at Lin Ling on the ground, shocked. Emperor Yun, kill him. Kill him. He screamed in panic. This was because his poison had reached its peak. Even if Lin Ling didn't kill him, he would explode and die. But before he died, he could see Lin Ling die with him. That was worth it. However, after his voice, Cloud State was silent. Emperor Yun? Emperor Yun? The Heavenly Emperor was still shouting, but his voice was becoming increasingly weak. Moreover, as he stared at the martial artists in the distance, he discovered that their faces were extremely pale. This also caused him to be filled with incredulous thoughts. This thought made him shake his head as if he couldn't accept it. Stop shouting, it's the first time you go. However, Lin Ling forced him to witness the truth with his own eyes and tell him personally where Emperor Yun had gone. Impossible, Emperor Yun has the power of the primordial age. This sentence was the last straw that broke the camel's back. The Sky Emperor became hysterical. Poisonous blood began to spurt out of his body. When it landed on the ground was corroded. The poison floated in the air. Even a whiff of it would cause the body of a bystander to rot and die. The most terrifying thing was that this poison wouldn't disappear for 1,000 years. It would spread in the wind forever. You'd better take care of yourself. If I were you, I would have rushed into the chaos of the universe. I wouldn't implicate any more innocent people. Lin Ling didn't explain anything. Instead he laughed. Hearing that, the Sky Emperor's last hope completely collapsed. He screamed in pain, I beg you, kill me, kill me. His whole body became distorted. His face was full of fist-sized blood blisters that kept expanding. It was a terrifying sight. I forgot to tell you. In fact, I just happened to know how to neutralize the poison that you used to increase your strength. Lin Ling had already left with Xiao Yu and the others. Save me. Hearing that, the Sky Emperor seemed to have grasped at his last straw. I won't save you. You're bluffing. However, Lin Ling walked further and further away. The Sky Emperor was stunned in the sky. His eyes were filled with despair. Boom. Finally, his body exploded and turned into a green cloud that was thousands of miles wide. It rolled and scattered with the wind. Obviously, Cloud State was facing a great calamity. For 1,000 years, this area would be a forbidden land for the dead. After the Sky Emperor's poison broke out, Lin Ling and the others naturally left Cloud State immediately. Not long after, they appeared in the chaos of the universe. Xiao Li. When Grandma Wendao saw that they were completely safe, she immediately pounced on Lin Ling and hugged Lin Ling, I missed you so much. Come, 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 give me a kiss. Kiss my lips, not my face. Grandma Wendao was still the same as before. When she saw Lin Ling, she couldn't help but want to tease him. The third princess and the others immediately giggled. What an annoying old granny. Xiaoyu looked at Grandma Wendao with disgust and jealousy. Only Lin Ling looked helpless. In the end, he gently kissed Grandma Wendao's wrinkled face. How disappointing. Why don't you kiss me? But Xiaoli, is this really a kiss of love? Don't tell me you're going to marry me? Grandma Wendao was still teasing Lin Ling. Granny. Lin Ling couldn't help but laugh bitterly. Although he was extremely powerful now in front of Grandma Wendao, he was still that brat from the sacred rainforest. Alright, I won't tease you anymore. What's this little girl's background? After Grandma Wendao smiled, she stared at Xiaoyu and squatted down to pick her up. Annoying. Xiaoyu hid behind Lin Ling and hugged Lin Ling's leg. She even pulled Little Rabbit and Little Deer to her side, as if afraid that Grandma Wendao would snatch them away. Oh, this little girl is really stubborn. She only wants my Xiaoli, but this little girl's taste is not bad. Grandma Wendao frowned and didn't continue. She sensed that although this little girl didn't seem strong, she was hiding an extremely mysterious power. Therefore, if she angered this little girl, she might give her a blow and break her old bones. Third Princess Grandma Wendao, you guys go back first. I'm going to the spirit state. Yu and the rest are waiting for me. I don't want them to worry too much. Lin Ling also cut to the chase. After he finished speaking, he took out the Nether Dragon Half-Life liquid and gave each of them 3 drops. Those treasures naturally made everyone happy. They knew that every time they met Lin Ling there would be benefits. Lin Ling had always been generous to his friends. This was also one of the reasons why they were willing to follow Lin Ling. Master, are you leaving again? You're the Emperor Qing behind the scenes of the Green State. The third princess didn't care much about the treasures. Instead, she looked at Lin Ling with reluctance. Go back. The Green State can't be without you. That's your territory.